Experience astrology like never before with Astromystic. Forget generic horoscopes. Astromystic combines the wisdom of a seasoned astrologer with advanced AI to bring you real-time, personalized astrology. We have just rolled out the new beta. Astromystic is your daily dose of astrology, or your mystical guide with love, career. You can ask anything. Our special Mystic Vision can help you see your future, while being the first AI astrology to also integrate the mundane astrology transits. Trained with the work of celebrity astrologer David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King, and with over 12 years of astrology content, a solid 41,600 hours of it to be precise. The Leo King's prophecy astrology, and all his schools and astrology teachings, give you the opportunity to be part of history, as now astrology has never been able to do what it can now. With so many features, and exciting future ones that are rolling out, anyone can use this massive upgrade to astrology to learn, be more conscious, or see into why someone you like doesn't respond to you. What are their turn-ons and turn-offs? How do you prepare for the week, or next month? Is it a good time for love or work? And we give you the actual mind-blowing details. Let your astrology imagination run wild, or at least let Astromystic help you with our mystic visions. Astromystic ensures you get the freshest, most accurate astrological advice. Share the magic with friends and discover how the stars influence your life together. Astromystic. Put your ego aside and let Astromystic be your guide. Try it now, astromystic.ai, and try the beta for yourself.
What is going on, everyone? It's David Palmer, Leo King, and Dr. Ann Wohlcke here for History in the Stars. We got quite the episode today. How are you doing tonight? Tonight, Ann?
I'm doing wonderfully. How about you?
Well, I think, I don't know, we were going to go live hours ago, but running a studio isn't as easy as you think. I don't know.
Right.
Every problem happened. So, I take it all with a grain of salt, and I'm blessed to have it.
Yes.
And that's the only way you can think about it.
It was just one thing after the other. It was the challenge of the universe. It's Pluto conjuncture Venus, or what is it? Opposed your Venus? I don't remember what it was. But there's a lot going on in David's chart right now. And there's just one thing after another going on at the studio with the Wi-Fi, the audio. So I think maybe we're hitting a soft spot or a sore spot with this particular episode, maybe.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, maybe I will go mad, right? Pluto opposing my sun natally, Pluto square my Pluto natally, Neptune square my natal happening. Venus is transiting on top of my sun tonight to oppose Pluto, square my natal Pluto right now. My progressed moon is exactly in opposition to my natal moon at 28 Scorpio, because I am going to turn 40 in about a week and a half. Right? So that's when you get to your full 1.5 progressed moon. So I'm also in that. And Uranus is squaring my Mercury and ascendant exact at 26 degrees Taurus to my 26 Leo Mercury and rising.
And you're still going.
And my progressed sun is at 9 Virgo, squaring my natal Uranus at 9 Sag.
Everybody, we're lucky that you're here. We feel fortunate to be with you through all of these crazy transits. And I'm very excited for tonight. So I'm so glad that everything finally came together.
Yeah.
And we hope. Are we actually live right now?
Oh, yeah, we're live.
Okay, good. Because I can't log in anything right now myself.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, we've got definitely a live going, and I'm happy that we can do this, because this episode really happened from you. Mm-hmm. And you've been getting a lot of attention through your history episodes, and I love where you went with what we're seeing right now in the world with the world leader, where the whole world's questioning the mind of if the leader is cognitive or not. But it's kind of interesting, because this is going to really look at King George III and his madness, and ironically, same thing.
Yes.
And it's interesting because there's so many similarities with the astrology as well, that it's almost, the more we went down this rabbit hole to share with people today, history has been here before.
In many ways.
In many ways,
times, right? I think it's so interesting that, first of all, I'll just share that I had created a video about King George III's madness and Queen Charlotte because I wanted to look at the real history behind Queen Charlotte, since there is a Netflix show right now called Queen Charlotte, A Bridgerton Story. And I was so curious. Well, I mean, actually, I'm an 18th century historian. I focus on the British history. That's my specialty. And so that's why I was really interested in looking at the real history behind it. And we can talk about whether or not people appreciate a series that's sort of loosely based in history, right? It takes a lot of liberties with history, like every Hollywood show does. I mean, when the Tudors first came out, I was saying Henry VIII didn't look like that at all, right?
Right.
But I understood that, King Henry VIII appealed like that to the people of his time. They would have thought he was a handsome, sexy guy, right? So you can't cast someone that doesn't fill our ideas about what would be a handsome king. And so I think they got the casting right on Queen Charlotte, even though we could talk on a different episode about, the fact that she did not have African ancestry, or if she did, it was extremely distant. But what I really like about the show is that it delves into this relationship between the king and the queen. We know about King George III because of his madness.
Right.
We don't know a lot about Charlotte, except that she was supposed to have been the good wife who he picked because she wasn't going to be interested in politics, and she was going to be a good wife and mother. And she was an outsider. She was not going to be a traditional, typical wife for him. But we know that they were really affectionate to each other, but because they spent so much time together, there's not a lot of evidence of their writings because they didn't have to write to each other. There are a lot of letters, but we could know more. And we don't know a lot about the personal relationship between the two as the king became mad, because he did start to suffer from mental instability, starting at least in the 1760s, mid-1760s, it sort of flared up. And then in 1788 to 89, there was a crisis in which King George III, became so mentally unstable that there were worries that he couldn't rule. And there were talks about a regency being put in place for him. So that's really interesting. I mean, I was interested in this because I was interested in the TV show and wanting to talk about the actual background. But
right.
It actually appears that there's a real astrological reason why stories about leaders suffering from insanity or losing their mind actually has a historical precedent right now.
Yes.
And that I couldn't believe when we started to talk about the similarities earlier when we were talking about the show. So I'm excited about this.
Well, and it's interesting, King George III takes the reign 1760. That's literally Pluto ingressing into Capricorn. And so there's always about these like leaders that come in, right? Like look at right now, we've just seen Pluto ingress into Aquarius. It's going to come back into Capricorn though. The UK has a new prime minister. We don't know who that prime minister in France is going to be, but it's all split and the parties are all in parliament trying to figure it out. And the Olympics is about to happen. And then in America, the big question is about the mind of the president, to where even his own party is saying, no, this ain't going to work. And the media is finally actually questioning the White House fully.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the same way that, the commoners of that time we're questioning, is this king fit to serve? And then the people that were in his court, is this okay? And I think that maybe some of that history going back to like when during the Tudor era, when it was like, oh no, this is how the line of succession needs to be, and Lady Jane Grey comes in and then they get rid of her, right? It's like they almost don't want to go into that place the same way that America has never pulled the 25th Amendment before. Because it's more than a question if the president should run, but if he can't even run because of his cognitive issues or his mental, capacity, I think that's the bigger question going on within. Like, do we pull the 25th Amendment? And so, that would be new, and that would be we have not seen that in American history, but we've seen it in history where people just allow it to happen and kind of find the positive in the person, even when they are going mad. Like with King George III, for example.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I never used to think about this. So if you ever look at sort of the timeline of the king's madness, I should have pulled something up. I think they actually show it sometimes. That, and I was just looking at this when I did my video, where they will say, okay, 1765, he has this mysterious illness. Maybe he has like a little bit of depression. Then by the 1780s, he starts again. In 1788, it's so bad that that he has to kind of leave public life and recuperate. And they talk about whether he can do the job or not. So I never thought about the fact that possibly between those times, he could have been exhibiting behavior that wasn't quite right. I always just thought for some reason like, oh, suddenly he just goes mad and then all these things happen, because we look at it from a political perspective. And I think it's really interesting to now zoom out and sort of look at these issues about leadership and how do people deal with it when their leader that's there because of something everyone's agreed upon, right? In England, the king is there because people believe that line has a right to rule. He's the one who was born into it. Here, we've elected a president, and he's, I almost said on the throne. He's in office. He's running and getting ready, right? It's the system is working, but what do we do when the people who fulfill that role start to break down? And it's so interesting that these two periods of time have that transit that we've talked about in the past that happens in 1760, similar to 2020, right?
Yeah.
So that's that transit. And we were looking at other aspects, but we weren't expecting, I don't think, to see a similarity pop up in the people who are being ruled or governed, having to deal with a ruler who's incapacitated or seems incapacitated. How do people deal with that? How do the subjects deal with it? How does the government deal with it? How do the citizens? So I think it's really interesting that all of this is coming up.
Yeah, and I think it's really weird because it's different in America, of course, than having a monarchy, because it's the people who elect the president through a very unique way. I mean, the electoral voting system is a completely different system than anywhere in the world. It's based by states and delegates, and especially to get to, a nomination of a party and so forth. We don't have a parliament. We have 3 branches of government, and we do it a lot differently. And so I think it's weird because, a citizen can become the highest part of office. The easiest, I would say, is America. And so you're dealing with also, after the Trump immunity case, though, this kind of reminder that whoever does become the president does have this shield, that they do not become just a citizen. And so when you have your finger on the nuclear button, like I've been hearing a lot of talk about how they think it's such a horrible decision, but okay, are we going arrest Harry Truman's family for nuking Japan? No.
Right. Yeah.
So nobody's brought up that one, and I'm always like, wow, like nobody thought about that one. Like that's why there's immunity. Like or same thing why you lose your citizenship when you become in the military. You keep it as a citizen when you come back to it, but you become part of the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So you're not part of the same laws. Like you're allowed to kill someone if you've been ordered to do that, and you will not get reprimanded.
Right.
So like we're in a world that people are forgetting about these kind of things, and we have to remember that it's like the only way to get rid of a king is if he is willing to step down, or if there's a really gnarly coup, and that usually meant killing a king.
Well, and ironically,
Right.
that really gnarly coup was happening as King George III was coming out of his madness in 1789. I think there was a date that I looked at on July 14th. He was recuperating at the seaside in 1789. And that was the exact same day that in France, there was the storming of the Bastille and the beginning of the French Revolution. And again, we're dealing with similar issues in the world. Not to say that it's exactly the same, but I think that you raised a really good point. Right now, we have a lot of people who are very opinionated about and feeling really like intense about these systems in our government, and talking about wanting to change things like the Electoral College or impeach people on the Supreme Court or whatever it is. And a lot of people are thinking, okay, yeah, let's do that because we're getting inflamed by what we think is wrong right now, or a lot of people are, right?
Right.
I'm not saying everyone. It's interesting to me how it's the same astrology where people got inflamed in the colonies, right? Because they felt like our government's not working exactly the way it's supposed to. And that went one way. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard not to see this as some sort of test of the institutions of government, but that those tests come about by the people who are in the offices.
Yes.
And how it's like a test of how does this system work in reality? And I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that you're right. I think it's such a different thing because when you're in people like to squabble about, like what's happening in the UK, it went Labour, and we're going to be so much better off, and da, da, da. At the end of the day, the king's still the king. Nothing changes. There are monarch powers that override at the very end of the day.
Right.
So when you're in America, though, there is this place to where the House can impeach, right? And the Senate becomes the court. But there is this weird 25th Amendment.
Yeah.
But with King George, when he went mad, there is no... The 25th Amendment is, a sword or a dagger or poison in history.
Or Parliament and the Prime Minister and everybody came together. Eventually what happened was his madness couldn't be stopped anymore. And so they had to come up with the Regency Act in 1811. And so they did find a solution, but it was, within the system of the government, they figured out a way to make it work. And always there had been regents appointed when someone was unable to rule. But at this point, it was a more constitutional monarchy, and so it had to go through Parliament as well. I mean, yeah. So, and also, I guess the idea is that if your monarch is mad and can't rule, right? It's the king ruling with Parliament or in Parliament. So if the king is not able to be a part of the discussion, it has to be an innovative type of decision that's put in place to help get out of that situation. So
and it's like when we'll look at King George's chart here, the third, because I feel, even looking at his chart, most astrologers would be like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He would go crazy.
Okay,
Well,
why would that make sense?
I mean,
that you would go
it's
crazy?
funny because Trump has the same alignments, not exact, but a lot of them, right? So you would think, oh, Trump's the madman. Now, hold on, I'm right here. Okay, I want people to be able to see this. So, one, he's a Leo rising at 0 degree. Trump's a Leo rising at the last degree, but it's a Leo rising. But he's a Gemini with a lot of Gemini, like Trump. So it's a Gemini with a Leo rising. But he does have a very, very intense interception between Cancer and Capricorn here. He was born after the full moon. So Trump was born during a lunar eclipse full moon. He was right after a full moon, 2.5 days after a full moon. So not quite the full Trump, but a big, strong Mars. Trump has Mars in Leo right by his ascendant. This is Mars in great aspect to the ascendant, up high on the midheaven in Aries, and its domicile position. So his Mars gets a lot of points there. His Mars is his strongest planet in his chart. But it's interesting to me because he's got Chiron in Gemini. And this is where I would say, well, of course this guy's going to go mad. He's a Gemini with Chiron in Gemini, with Mercury in Gemini retrograde. Mercury rules Gemini. He's got Mercury conjunct Saturn, Saturn conjunct Venus, and Venus conjunct Neptune, all in Gemini. Now, it's really interesting because he's also got Pluto and Scorpio at the 1st degree. So that would be like being born in like 1985, 1986. So if you think of the cycles, right? But it also puts him as the same age as a lot of the founding fathers that were younger, like the Hamiltons and so forth. So it's kind of interesting that when the actual Revolutionary War happens, which I think is kind of the more interesting part, is you would think maybe he would have gone the most mad during that time.
Right.
But it's during that time he pays attention, but he's interested in the transit of Venus. He's interested in all these eclectic things. Mm-hmm. And there's a massive war going on the other side about all these colonies, and he's kind of worried about his other stuff going on in his life.
Right.
You know, you'd think almost he would have showed up on the shores of America and been like, no, this ain't going to happen.
Right.
Like if it was Henry VIII, Henry VIII would have done that.
Well, interestingly enough,
You know?
his sons were probably more interested in it. And one of his sons actually was in New York during the Revolutionary War. And there was a plot to possibly kidnap his son. And George Washington signed off on it. But it didn't happen because they got wind of it and,
right,
started to guard the son more. But
so if you look, he came into reign in 1760. So we can look at that 1760 time period, and that's where it gets kind of interesting because his ingress of becoming, I'm going to call it ingress because of Pluto, but we can see that, we'll throw this on a sheet here, bi-wheel. Oh man, okay. So we could see that at that time, that's Pluto at the end of Sagittarius coming to ingress into Capricorn, right? So we always see these big leadership changes when Pluto's exiting a sign and ingressing into a new one, okay? What's really interesting to me, though, is like that's the same transit that Obama came under. But what's interesting, too, is George III stays in power into Pluto Aquarius, and the madness happens halfway through Pluto and Aquarius. So it's not like he comes in and becomes mad.
Right.
Now, you know that you could state I was in the room when I went, okay, his queen, let me look at her chart.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I swear I've never looked at her chart, and I was even asking you, like, what? So why do people like this woman? And you just said, well, because they were the first royal couple that felt like they were more relatable, middle class.
He was called, and he really did enjoy being called Farmer George. They wanted to present themselves, or they did present themselves as more of an average couple.
So, and I swear, I have Ann to verify this. So, yeah, Queen so her name originally was Caroline, right?
No, that should be Charlotte. Is that? Oh, you know what? This could actually be his daughter-in-law. It's Queen Charlotte.
I know it's Queen Charlotte, but I think when I was looking at, because she was born 30 years after, right?
I don't know. Let's see. Princess Charlotte, where would she be?
Sophia Charlotte?
Charlotte, I think that's her. Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. It would say Charlotte.
Charlotte of Ansbach?
Caroline of Ansbach's George II's wife. So
okay.
It would be
Caroline of Ansbach, right?
No, that's not it. That's the second George II's wife. It's Charlotte. Queen consort, no. She's got to be in there because don't they have all the royals?
They have all the royals there, in
right?
here, yeah. Yeah, now I'm going too far.
Let me see.
Because they have George IV, 1760. So that's the fourth. He's the third. So.
Okay. It does say Sophia Charlotte von Mecklenburg-Strelitz. So is that.
So they have her as Sophia Charlotte.
Wait a second. Let me see. Because this has two different
Does
ones.
her birthday say May 19th, 1744?
This one says November 17th, 1769, but that's, is this the right one? No, that's a Duchess. That's not her. So I think it is Sophia Charlotte.
May 19th?
May 19th, 1744.
1744.
Yeah.
This makes even more sense to me.
Okay.
Pretty much the same chart, which is so funny. But I said, what's up with her? So in her life, he's a Gemini, she's a Taurus. She's still a Taurus. It was so funny. I was looking at Taurus, remember?
Yeah.
And I'm like, was she cheating on him? I'm not saying that Tauruses cheat on everyone or anything like that, but same Venus, same place too. Weird as that.
Where's the Venus?
Venus at 3 degrees Taurus.
Oh, so she's a Taurus who had
Venus in Taurus, Mars in Taurus, North Node in Taurus, Pluto at 17 degrees opposite that Mars. So we're going to look now at the chart of, I'm going to do this. We're going to look at George's chart during his madness that's recorded, which we know that's in October of 1788, correct?
Yes, October 1788 was the onset of the madness that they let publicly be known.
Right. So that's like the Biden moment that they're finally allowing the media to say is happening, even though it's been happening. So this is during eclipse season in Gemini and happening as well. Let me do this bi-wheel again. Oh, man. So the South Node right there in Gemini. He's a Gemini. South Node, though, right? So that's not the easiest transit. Plus Jupiter in his 12th, and there's Jupiter and Uranus about to make their conjunction in Leo coming up in 1789, within less than a 6-month period. We just went through the Jupiter conjunction of Uranus in May of this year, but it was in Taurus. But still, it's a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So Jupiter in the 12th is one of the hardest transits, and he's got a loaded 12th house, Neptune, Venus, Saturn, okay? The eclipses are happening, and the eclipses happen all over him. So there also is Jupiter in the house that's part of his interception. So if you look at his interception, it's in Cancer here and Capricorn. So he's got the moon here, he's got Neptune, Venus, and Saturn, and a big stellium with Mercury, but 3 of them are sitting in that 12th house if we use Placidus in the interception. So that's a really weird place. Jupiter is amplifying a place. The moon rules Cancer, but it doesn't have a house that it's actually ruling. So that moon's already detriment in Capricorn, the 6th house. So that means he's going through mental stress of something that he can't control, and he has Uranus there conjunct his moon as well. So if we think about it, when I looked at his chart, it's like, Uranus is a big part of this. He's about to have it conjunct Jupiter in transit in his 1st house, and it's going to be with Pluto finishing in his 7th. That was the thing I was looking at, was like, is she cheating?
So it's Pluto
finishing his 7th, Jupiter in his 12th, amplifying his Neptune, Venus, Saturn. Extreme, like, this guy's actually a big lover. And he likes to be stimulated there, but when things go out of control that he feels like are working, boy oh boy does he not know how to handle it mentally, and he tries to wrap his head around it. Or if he gets the wrong fact or the wrong idea about something, it can turn super over dramatic, especially with Uranus now in his 1st house at that time. So it was kind of like, I feel like he was mad the whole time, just they hit it well. And I asked you, I go, was she cheating? And then I looked up the madness of of George III during so the madness of, Queen Charlotte 1788 what was it? Is it King George the Third madness? You know what I put? I put Queen. Why do I use for name? Charlotte affair. And boom, there it is. In 1788, King George's first bout of ill health began, which included physical symptoms. Queen Charlotte was stressed by her husband's condition and tried to protect the monarchy from downplaying his mental lapses. That sounds exactly like something that's happening right now.
Yes.
Right? So they're talking about that. But the other part was, oh, wow, are they trying to erase that part where she was...
No, you said Queen Charlotte was... Wait, you
just
said,
stress. There's another part where she...
Right there. Right up, I think.
It shows that the sleep...
he made lurid accusations of adultery against Charlotte.
Oh, yeah, that's a different version. But and also against all of her... Oh, I guess it says her attendance there. But during that period, exactly that... And I went... Before I even knew that, I went, did he find out she was cheating on him?
So, but you're saying too, you're saying yes, you would say that there's something in the chart that shows he was probably being cheated on in reality. And I would even say...
I'd say the whole time.
So we can't see that, and there's no evidence that we can find, right, that historians would have. But what I know from the historical record is that he started, while he was in that period in 1788 of that madness, he started to tell Charlotte publicly that he preferred one of her ladies in waiting over her, and that he wasn't going to sleep with her again until 1793. And actually, they did start sleeping in separate rooms at that point, right?
Yeah, after this, when he recovers, they never sleep in the same room again.
Yeah. So he does start to make accusations, or he starts saying, like, this is in the historical record, what he said publicly, that he wasn't going to, that he preferred somebody else over her, which was a huge, shattering thing for Charlotte. That's what I was saying, because she was known to be a really devoted wife. But you're saying that it shows there could have actually been cheating. But
Yeah.
could it be that he feared it, or that he had such a fear and reacted mentally to that?
No. So there's another astrologer out there, Jessica Adams, and she's an English astrologer, and she's shown that whether it was Henry's time, right? He wanted to have a son. He got a daughter, Elizabeth, right? Then he had Queen Anne. Well, she was going behind his back with other people. So that was the end of her. That there's something about Leo energy, monarchy, and when Pluto comes into Aquarius, it deals with women. And unfortunately, it also deals with like the scandals that women can do against men, or that they're not attracted to them, or that they have something else going on.
So it was because Pluto was in his 5th house.
In his
or
seventh
house.
As a Leo,
Okay.
right?
That's right.
Ascendant. And it's finishing there, and it's finally exposing it all, which he had probably been getting bits of. So that's why OpenAI make a representation of him starting to go mad and her little grin on her face.
She's sneaking off to her other partner.
With her lion eyes from the Eagles, yeah.
Poor Charlotte.
Those cold hands, you know?
Oh.
But I find it interesting because the similarity, though, between what we're seeing in today's world is that looking at the madness and the impact of it, right? That at that time, the way that the citizens dealt with it, right? The public perception, the general populace was initially sympathetic towards King George III. They respected him for his piety, dedication to duty, and perceived as a moral leader. I was like, is that what the Biden administration is doing? Like, take from King George's book.
Maybe.
Right? Because that's what they're saying. Like, he's just such a great man. He's such a great servant. Right?
Mm-hmm. Talking about his legacy.
And it's more than his madness of him going off on his wife about stuff. He's not able to be king. He's like looking mad. He's pacing. He's walking around. He's having shouting fits. He's saying words that don't make sense. Mm-hmm. Pretty similar to right now.
Yeah. And George also, I was reading this earlier, he had handkerchiefs that he would get and ball them up and throw them all around. Like that was one thing he was. But see, I think that you're right in a way. He always was really obsessed about the things he was interested in. Like we were talking about how he was obsessed with measuring the transits of Venus in 1769. And in the show, this is what I think is so interesting about that show, Queen Charlotte. Even though it shows it happening earlier than it did, it shows that he would be out in his observatory or he would be out farming because he loved farming innovations, and he was excited about inventions, new ideas, mathematics, and it shows that part of his obsession in that show. So they do get that right, but the way they're depicting it is that he was already mad and they'd been hiding it for a long time when they got married. And so you're saying the astrology could show that, right?
I would say that it 100% shows it. What's really, I'll go to the chart one more second with him. If I just take it to just him, it's like, okay, this guy has Pluto at 1 degree Scorpio, right? So not that makes you mad, but it's a very interesting placement for him, being that, one, it was retrograde when he was born. If he's a Leo ascendant, it does rule that house that, unfortunately for him, traditionally it's the 4th house for Leo. In his Placidus chart, and for most Brits, they have lots of weird house system problems because they're born too high north. Same thing with Australians, right? Like, why do the teeth look the same? Why does the axe? It's not just because the British colonized those places, right? Or South Africa. Why is it?
Because what, they have Capricorn and intercepted?
Well, no, it's because of the longitude and latitude.
Okay.
So even Nostradamus goes into that. You know, people above 40 degrees, they look weird. They talk weird. They're not on the equator. Everybody looks more similar, right? When you go far up north and you go far down south, it gets too off. The teeth spread apart more. The teeth break because Saturn, the light also doesn't hit as much, and so forth. So that's why you see whenever I do a reading for a Brit, it's like they're going to have an interception, and his is in Capricorn. And so Pluto was in Capricorn during the beginning of his reign. Pluto came into his 6th house right when he became king. And I think for him, looking at his chart, that Pluto in Scorpio is that obsession that he has. And what's really interesting to me is that Mercury retrograde too. It's like he's got this very Gemini life. Unfortunately for him, how to control things is his issue. He's got Moon and Uranus and Capricorn in the 6th house intercepted. He's got Mercury and Saturn and Venus and Neptune, all with Saturn and Gemini in the 12th. And that intercepted 12th is Cancer, which normally for a Leo rising, it should be Cancer, but it's his mind. So most Leos deal with their problems and their spiritual issues emotionally. For him, instead of dealing with it and crying about it or being like, let me go see a friend, he's going to go play with a contraption. He's going to go get lost in some other weird idea. He's going to get lost in his head, and he doesn't know how to control his head. And he has Chiron there, too. And he has Black Moon Lilith there. Pretty much every problem you could ever ask for, this guy has. Plus, he's sun in the 11th house. So he's always thinking about what other people are doing and what other people are thinking about me and what's going on and what can I contribute? What can I do? How can I be of service? So he probably got really mad. Leo risings like to do things for people. I mean, if he's giving this German queen all this love and attention and she's not giving it back, and he's going to start going mad. But I would say that as he came into right away, if you look at his chart, he's 13 degrees of Gemini. You just count to his Mercury at 12 years old. That's when his progressed sun was on his Mercury. At 14, he was on his Saturn. At 16, he was on that Venus-Neptune. So it's almost like if we could go back in history and look at his life, what happened to him at 16 years old while he was what's the term? Like William is right now? Prince William, when you're the next in line.
Yeah, I was just actually looking at that because he was not next in line. His father died in 1751. I think we looked at that.
Oh, right? So that's exactly when his progressed sun hit his Mercury retrograde.
Wow. Okay, so that's the moment that he became next in line.
Yeah, and Mercury in his chart's the ruler of his 12th. This is why I use interceptions and why I use Placidus. Like, this is why whole sign sucks. Because it'll always be off on real predictions and progressions and so forth. If you're a whole sign astrologer out there, it's really fun for Hellenistic, but that's about it. You can't really do much, you know what I mean? Like you can't go, oh, actually it's Gemini, the ruler of the 12th for this Leo rising, where he goes mad when his dad dies.
So you think it started
right there.
Huh. Interesting. And then I know that because I have Mercury retrograde in my chart also, and what I've heard before was, okay, but it went direct when I was like 3 or something. So it's not going to be as big of a deal for my whole life. Is that... Can you tell when his, I know but when his Mercury progressed, went direct, or is it retrograde his whole life?
Well, you're not going to see it for anybody their whole life, right? Because Mercury only retrogrades for 3 weeks, which is 21 to 23 days, okay. Right? So within 20 years, if somebody was on the day of it, they're already starting to get out of it. So in his case, he's got Mercury at 25 degrees, the sun at 13 degrees. That's like, it started moving. Plus, you could look at the speed. The speed was 14 minutes. So, yeah, he was like 4 to 5 days up to the Mercury retrograde. But it's more about the progressed sun crossing his natal Mercury Gemini retrograde.
And that it's all in the 12th
It's all at 12
too,
to 13
right?
years old, and his dad dies. But what's crazier is if I count from his Venus, which is conjunct Neptune in the 12th in Gemini, both at the last degrees of Gemini, right? And I go, okay, 29, and his sun is 13. So, okay, 15 degrees. So it's 16, 17 is when the biggest powerful moment about him in his life with relationships or his world is going to change. So that would be like around 1756, 1757. And so he becomes king in 1760. But the 4 years prior would be what happened there.
1757, or wait.
Yeah, 56, 57.
Do we have like a timeline? Let's see.
I'm interested now. Oh, right there. I saw 57.
Up or down? Oh, I see down. Okay. George III was passionate about books and began to build up a library after George II's library had been given to the British Museum in 1757. Could that have been a traumatic moment for him to lose the books?
No, I don't know. It had been given to the British Museum.
That is the 7 Years' War.
Let's see if OpenAI. I'll look while you're looking.
Okay.
All right, I got it. You ready?
Okay. What does it
people that are
say
afraid
on
of AI. Oh my God, AI is going to kill everyone.
No, we can look at AI and then we
It's
check
going to
it.
kill. It gave us information.
Let's see if it's
How
right.
dare it? How dare it give us information that quick?
Okay,
Oh my
what's it
gosh.
say?
Are you dead yet? It says during the years of 15, was not yet the monarch. He ascended to the throne. However, the events during his life played a significant role in shaping his future reign. Okay. Education and preparation. Prince George was being educated and groomed. AI. That's about grooming, huh? For future responsibilities. His education was focused on a variety of subjects, including languages, science, and constitutional history to prepare him for kingship. The 7 Years' War, and that began 1756. All right. Although he was not directly involved in political decisions or military outcome, the outcomes and experiences of the 7 Years' War significantly influenced him in his understanding of Britain's global position and military strategy. His family dynamics, his father died, we know that, in 51. His mother, Princess Augusta, played a crucial role in his upbringing and political education. What's up with her?
Yeah, what is up with her? I'm looking at something also that I'm following here. Interesting. So Augusta.
Let's look at her. Was mommy getting a little too close?
Well, I don't know, but his mother, Princess Augusta, took responsibility for educating the future king. This was accompanied by great pressure to live up to his father's expectations and to govern as he would have done. From at least 1756, he was given his own household at Kew Palace. Early tutors dismissed him as sullen and uninterested in business, but his fortunes changed with the addition of John Stuart, the third Earl of Bute. His mother, Augusta's closest friend or closest advisor to his household.
Her closest advisor.
Bute became the father figure to
he
the
got
prince.
traumatized watching Johnny Boy go down on Augusta.
Oh, no. Okay.
That's why they gave him his own household, so they could have their own household.
Let's look at John. And that makes me wonder, is he one of the stewards? And I think I remember looking up something about him before.
Let's look at his picture. What is that guy? What is that guy? That guy
Here's
looks like
the Earl
he's
of
getting
Bute.
John down.
Well, he's
Princess
definitely favored.
Augusta.
So he was actually traumatized by his mother, or It was the Oedipal moment where he had to stop loving his mother because he knew she was in love with this man.
Yeah, because he gets a house so they could get a house, basically. Because she's not that big a deal anymore.
Right.
He's the big deal.
Well, so she's free now.
What?
She's free to.
Yes, but she's not. The house ain't for her. It's for her son because he's the son of the king who died, or the son of the son.
Right. So So you're saying she was able to go to this?
She used her own son. That house was for Johnny Boy to get down.
Oh,
get down on it. They just had like disco. Well, they had violins going. They had players. They had cheese coming in.
It sounds very French. I think maybe they had puddings coming in.
Yeah, they had puddings and old, prime rib coming in. Corn, cream corn.
Probably definitely good beef coming in. Okay, so yes, it's interesting that you talked about that because I was just reading about the power that widows have, right? And different aristocratic women. So the moment his mother lost her husband, right, she becomes a very powerful woman because she's a widow if she's been taken care of at this point, right? And we assume she's got her legacy, she has some sort of money, but also now being the one who's in charge of the future monarch, she has a lot of power, but she's now no longer connected to her husband.
Right. So then her closest advisor comes into the household and helps him become more interested in business. Bute became a father figure to the prince who grew in confidence and promised to throw off his indolence. Under Bute's influence, George became interested in architecture and received tuition at Kew from the architect William Chambers.
Right. And Kew Gardens are beautiful, by the way. Let's see here. While he was receiving instruction in architecture at Kew, William Chambers was transforming its landscape through the addition of decorative buildings designed to express different architectural styles.
Let's go back to his Johnny Boy's Wikipedia and look at what was going on right before that. Like what was he really doing? He became prime minister
in 1760.
Wow, this guy knew how to dick it down the right way.
The secret history of John.
And what sign was he? He was a Gemini?
May 25th, 1713.
Oh, man, on his Chiron?
Okay, wait. Tell me what that means. Or because I can't picture it in my head.
He could have been... Oh, look at that. Bute furthermore became close to Prince Frederick's widow, Augusta of Sakotha, and the Dowager Princess of Wales, and it was rumored that the couple were having an affair.
Wait, where is that?
Straight ahead.
Oh, I see.
Right before he becomes prime minister.
Augusta of Sakotha, the Dowager Princess of Wales. Okay, yeah. So that's the one. And it was rumored the couple were having an affair. John
there you go.
And John, a scandalous pamphlet alluding to the liaison, but the rumors were almost certainly untrue.
Oh, come on. Oh, gosh. Oh, they were certainly untrue.
Religious beliefs against adultery,
oh,
David.
My gosh. These two were, he was traumatized by that. And he was
happily married.
And he was having an affair. So what would happen, the trigger point, when his wife is having an affair, he would know.
And what's interesting is, why does George III say he wants a wife who he chooses the 17-year-old Queen Charlotte, and he stipulates he doesn't want her to be interested in politics. He doesn't want her to be one of these really educated women.
Because Johnny Boy used his mom to get to the house, to get to know the people, to dick down his way to prime minister.
Wow, I didn't know it was going to be
all through astrology. Like, it's pretty simple using progressions.
That's so interesting. So it was 1751 when his father died, the progressed sun hit Mercury. Then when this happens, when the new household's set up,
When his progressed sun is on that, sitting on Neptune, Venus.
Or could we see the chart again?
Yeah, like, and I mean, I'm just doing it in my head. That's the sad part, right? Like, there's his sun at 13 degrees. There he is in 1756. Watch, I could just go, I'll show people. This is how you do astrology. Basic. This is like basic astrology. 1756. I said 1756, 1757 without even running it. Right? All right, let's see. Progressed sun, Neptune, conjunct, and just conjuncted is Venus, Saturn. And they said at least 1756. So the year prior, build that year. It's with progressions, you give it a year before, a year during, year after, especially solar arcs. But his solar arc sun was there prior, and then that's also his progressed sun and Neptune making a conjunction. So that means that when he was 16 into 17 years old, he literally, or days old, the sun and Neptune made a conjunction when Neptune had just ingressed into Cancer. So he was born and Neptune went right into Cancer. And then this is where the sun conjuncted it in 1756, progressed wise for him, in his 12th, which Cancer is his intercepted house of the 12th. So his moon in Capricorn is going to get wrecked in the 6th house and be like, I thought everyone was religious and played by the book, and I'm watching Johnny Dog barrel my mom.
Okay.
Or Johnny also liked little kids.
Well,
but I think that you're right. He chose a young wife, and he said he wanted her to not be political. And the 7 Years' War, right? So that you got to remember, it's like, oh gosh, if I become king, do I have to do this war thing? Progressed Mars at that time is at 20. Oh, look at, there's this progressed Pluto retrograding to 0 degrees backwards. So I would say that's where he went mad.
Is that because Pluto is squaring his ascendant, or is it's just
that's a huge part. He has Pluto square the ascendant, but Pluto at 0 degrees Scorpio is, like, I would say the most transformational placement with Pluto that rules Scorpio, because Antasia-wise, it goes to like 29 Aquarius, so it's like super radical. So on top of that, I'm just going to because we're comparing this to the current situation in the world.
Can I ask something while you're pulling up the chart? Because it's Cancer that's intercepted, would that automatically mean there's things with his mom, or
yes,
it could be maternal
That's
issues?
why his dad was such a hard loss. Because he has, one, his moon's in detriment in Capricorn. 2, he has the interception 12th Cancer as a Leo ascendant, right? So if there is, that means the mom is not going to be a traditional mom that loves the Leo. Right? It's going to be a mom that is missing in action and dicking down with Johnny Boy in front of him. She was German. Let's just say that.
I don't know what that means.
Cold.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well.
And it's a cold mother because the moon's in Capricorn. Right? But then if I show you Biden's chart.
Okay.
And this will blow your mind right now, okay? This is going to blow everyone's mind. So let's look up Joe Biden. Okay? Now, I'm now going to run not his progressions. I'm going to run his solar arcs.
And what's the difference?
Solar arcs are just every day you're alive.
Okay.
1 year. So he's 81. This is 81 days after his birth. You move all the planets 1 degree and you arc them all. You can use it different ways to arc, but we're arcing based off the sun. We're arcing everything. Okay, so we're going to use solar arc, and we're going to do it for today. Why not? Who has their solar arc Pluto that just ingressed to 0 Scorpio and has gone mad? Joe Biden. Oh, let's look at... Oh, yeah, he just did have Pluto come to 0 Scorpio. Uh-oh.
So you're saying he just now became...
And what is that? Oppose his moon. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So, oh, wait. Is that Biden's Mercury at 21? That, oh, yeah, Jupiter, Uranus just opposed that. But Chiron has now solar arced. Since he was born with Chiron all the way here in Leo, it's now arced 81 years later to be exactly conjunct his Mercury. What else is happening to his Mercury? Solar arc Sun Venus square his Mercury. So anybody out there saying that George was never mad or that Biden is not mad literally too are retarded.
Now, does Biden have intercepted chart houses, or you're just looking?
Biden does not. Biden's big problem is, if we look at his Gemini stuff, he's got Saturn here, right? So he's been through the Saturn square lately, transit-wise, and now Jupiter the week that it got crazy. So watch this. Would you say that since the debate, it's gone crazy, which has been in the last week and a half, right? Let's just move this back 1 week. 1 week. Jupiter conjunct to Saturn during the debate and all this week. Now, why is Saturn crucial? It's in the 7th house. Sure, it's not that bad to have it there. But in his chart, Saturn rules his 2nd house, and it's the co-ruler of his 3rd. He has South Node in Pisces in the 3rd house. It's kind of a weird place for him. But I would say that the big issue in his chart with Saturn, it's in opposition to his Juno, which is his wife. And now we know his wife is doing whatever she can to keep him in. So Saturn opposes his Juno at 9 degrees Sag, right there in the 1st. Right here. Right? There's Saturn. And he just had his solar arc moon 11 years ago on that Saturn. That's when he should have sunsetted away. Because I think it was, if we were to just kind of go, when did Joe Biden have brain surgery? People forget he had brain surgery.
Yeah, I thought that was the reason he didn't run the first time or that was the reason they gave when Hillary got nominated. Wasn't he trying to run then?
Yeah.
Am I alive? He said.
Gosh, just give me the date.
The aneurysm. It was an aneurysm.
Yeah, he had an aneurysm. He's already had many others.
That was...
In 88, he suffered 2 life-threatening brain aneurysms. Right? So, this is like the first bouts of madness. Right? So, let's just run... We'll just do a chart real quick just for 1988. And then I'll do the progressions, right? So in 88, Venus retrograde on his natal Saturn. And Venus retrograde, 13 degrees, happens to be exactly the degree of King George III's son. And also where the transits of Venus for our 120-year cycle that we lived through in 2012, that was where it was at. 17, 15, and then the last one in 2020 was 13. So,
and were they both rulers during a transit of Venus?
Yes, and no. Well, technically, because Biden was vice president. The other thing is Jupiter was in Taurus, just made an ingress into Gemini just right after that. So in 88, we're going through watching Biden have a brain aneurysm on TV.
Wow.
And if I were to do the progressions of 88, since we did the progressions for George. Moon or Sun at 13 Capricorn. Progressed balsamic phase of the moon. So there's the moon at 24 Sag. He's in his balsamic phase. That's why I think when he tried to run for president, and then he, of course, had brain aneurysms, but he also was taking other people's speeches and got caught for that.
Yeah. He has all sorts of energy or like planets in his 12th house too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Especially, I would say that Sun-Venus conjunction is very intense. That's why he's lost a wife, a son. Sun-Venus is not a good transit to be born under. It burns Venus out. It's a Kazemi moment. And like his progression is within 1 year, his progressed sun's on his Venus, meaning within a year old, somebody in the house is doing something weird. Especially in Scorpio, something happened with his relationships that early on. Right? So that's why he loves babies so much. He likes sniffing babies and sniffing hair. Sun, Venus, 12th house, Scorpio conjunct. That's obsessed with the 1 year old, you know? I'm just going, it's just astrology, you know?
But what's interesting too is doesn't Donald Trump have a lot of 12th house energy too, or am I wrong?
He has Mars in the 12th. He has Pluto in the 12th.
Huh.
But Trump, he's intercepted as well. But Trump has 2 Leo signs. So Trump has first house Leo and 12th house Leo. It's not 12th house Gemini. Right?
Okay.
But he does have Cancer intercepted.
Interesting.
And Capricorn intercepted.
Is that from being born in New York? Was he born in New York?
He was born in Queens, yeah. And that's pretty high north. People think that's not north high, but that's, you know, you're starting to get in the high 30s, 40s there. 38, 39, I think. You know, Queens, you know.
I don't know.
What's interesting about Biden's chart, if you look at it, if we look at his Neptune, so you can do Chart Explorer and just go to like Neptune. His Neptune at 44 years old, stationed retrograde. So if he's born in 42 and we add 40 years, that's in 82. And then you add 4, that's 86. So in 86, his Neptune station's retrograde. So when you start seeing like somebody's chart, they don't get their planets to station direct, they go retrograde. That's harder than a planet stationing direct. And Neptune's a big one because that rules his 4th house. So that's when his family dynamics change extremely. And now we're seeing massive transits on the bottom of Biden's chart, right? On top of that, he's got Chiron conjunct the North Node, but within only a degree in like a couple minutes, and they're in different signs. But that's what's really interesting to me is that he's like a really weird case of somebody who is trying to do service, yet is he really wanting it for service? Because that Chiron there in Leo, he wants attention. He wants to be seen for his views more, though, than the service. So the other thing, too, is Pluto at 7 degrees. And now we're starting to see Pluto opposite it. But, yeah, like looking at him in 88, I would say based off that balsamic phase of the moon, his progressed sun finally reached his ascendant and passed it in the years prior, which would have been when his Neptune stationed direct. I would say that he has weird at-home things that were happening at that time. I mean, he did marry the babysitter.
When was that? 1980 or 81, you said?
I don't remember the year.
Because I saw that there was the accident. His first wife died in 1972. His one-year-old daughter.
Yeah, one. See?
Died in 1972.
Progress Sun-Venus. I mean, a transit of Sun-Venus conjunction within a degree. 1 year old. That 1 year old moment is going to replay in his life, whether it's sniffing kids, his kid dying. They married in 77. But what happened in 86?
He tried to run for president, didn't he? Or
Impassioned speech on apartheid.
wasn't
So
that
he was
when
working.
He was plagiarizing the speech?
Oh, he co-wrote the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which caused a large disparity between the sentencing of crack cocaine and powder cocaine. Black drug users were more likely than whites to use crack. This is...
How old was Hunter at that time?
Right? So if you think about it, he was probably at home showing Hunter how to do crack.
On purpose, or could he have done the legislation because his son was
I mean, his
involved
son
in
was so
drugs?
young then.
Well, he was born in 1970. He was 16. So it could have been his first experimentation with drugs or
It
something.
could have been that too, but there's that Neptune, his delusion coming out. And remember, he actually was calling blacks bad people. You don't want them coming into your house. They should go to jail, 10 years in jail. Throw them away. Don't look at the key. They're going to come after your children. So that's mad to me, right? So the madness is Joe Biden forever, right? He even did the Rave Act, which, right? Like he got rid of ravers, right? It was called the Rave Act, right? And it's about reducing the Americans' vulnerability to Ecstasy Act, right? So to expand regarding establishment of manufacturing operations, distribution of the use of the drugs, include temporary or permanent uses on the premises, to go after the owners of properties that were throwing raves, to go after, and guess who was introduced by? Joe Biden. So if you think about it, he's not a civil servant. Especially when his own kid, well, he was just having a drug problem. Go tell that to all the people in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s and 2010s that have all been criminalized and put away forever. And they were just maybe just doing it with their buddies. Fucking his son was fucking little kids, and the pictures around. And
I just wanted to point out also that in 2003, Kamala Harris was the district attorney who was also prosecuting drug users and people who bought drugs, all that, right? So that might be where they...
Even the American
bonded.
Civil Liberties Union has criticized the legislation, arguing that the threat of the DEA enforcement actions leading to a chilling effect on speech and unfairly punishes businesses for the crimes of their customers. Sounds like COVID. So, to me, when I think of the madness, the difference is, I would say historically, is you have one who is mad about replaying what his mother did that he witnessed. And the father figure that he lost, and the father figure that came in that used his mom and him to get to where he wanted to go. So if he sees his wife do that now, he's going to go mad.
Yeah.
Right?
And when he was suffering bad mental state, it could have been at that point that he saw his wife have to take more of a step, like to step up more and take political actions for him or something.
Yeah, and then
then
it kind of put her in her place.
Yeah, but also...
But she never did sleep in the same bed with him.
Yes, but she could have also been having a little bit of an affair I mean, who she was really close with at that point was her lady in waiting.
That's true.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting and really weird, but it is one of those things to where I think there's a big difference, right? Like you see George not really putting it on the people, but dealing with it in his own life, where you see Joe Biden putting his madness out on the people.
But would that be different? Would that be because it manifests differently in their charts?
Yeah, because one is like with George, he actually cares about people. He's all that 11th house Gemini, right? So he actually cares about wanting to serve people. You told me even after the whole Revolutionary War, he felt bad he didn't fight more for the colonies.
Yeah, I mean, it would
right?
be more that he would have felt a failing in not being able to heal that rift
right.
with the colonies.
So I would say that that's the massive difference between those two is like, one, you have somebody who's actually empathetic and caring about it, where you have another one who actually has had brain aneurysms.
Yeah.
And is just throwing out like there's no emotional regulation and understanding, plus looking at his progressed retrogrades and looking at his progressions or his solar arcs where they're at now, it's like hiding it from the people in such an extreme way to where when we find out all the ways that it's done, most people won't be able to handle it. Like, that wasn't Joe Biden? You mean that was all green screen? You mean that, you know? So there's a deception about it where like it was about more of a deception happening to George.
But there is actually something about 1788 that you mentioned before that is similar to the astrology of today, right? Because we were talking about why is it that in 1788 there is this moment when it becomes public knowledge, but they were probably already dealing with it. So was it Mars and Saturn? I can't remember what you had pointed out, that there's something
Jupiter,
similar.
Uranus.
Or was it Saturn? There was something with Saturn, I think, in 1788.
Oh. This is pretty crazy. Take a look. In 1788, so let's get off. I can't even look at this guy's chart.
And I wanted to see what type of helpmate Jill is for him compared to Charlotte, but I want to see 1788.
So it was Jupiter, Uranus, but it was Saturn in Pisces, and it was Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So in 1789, after all this happens and his wife leaves and all that stuff, right, to move into the other room and all that, you'll see it's a Saturn exactly in the same Saturn position we're at now. We just saw it go retrograde 19, right? And what was crazy was I went, oh, okay, there's a lot of this Saturn Pisces with like these affairs and these weird situations, because I just looked at Bill Clinton, and you look up November of 1995, that's when the allegations came out about Monica Lewinsky, and it was Saturn retrograde at 18 degrees, 19 degrees, right where we're at right now. And it was Saturn retrograde when King George went mad about his wife cheating on him.
Right.
So.
And
so, like, talk about leaders in weird situation.
So
or Trump and the Melania thing going back to the Stormy Daniels.
Was that Saturn retrograde also?
No, but I'm just saying that it finally came up.
Yeah.
Big time. Right. Even it was used in the debate.
Right. And that Saturn in Pisces is something they would have known about in George's time.
Yeah.
Whereas they wouldn't have known about all the Neptune stuff happening for him, or Chiron, right?
Correct.
But where is...
But I don't, you know, that's what's weird is if you actually look at what the White House has been trying to use to say that Joe is cognitive, I don't know if you saw this, just it was a couple months ago. It's all over the news. Good sex is the secret to Joe Biden's long marriage. Biden issues blanket pardon to troops expelled. Okay. Joe Biden says good sex life is the key to a great marriage in new book. Joe Biden was worried the kids weren't having enough sex.
What kids?
New York Magazine talks about sex with staffers. Wonders how young people make love under modern stresses and saying good sex. He's worried about the staffers if they're having good enough sex.
After 47 years of romance with the First Lady, President Biden
revealed his secret to a happy marriage, good sex. Now remember that Jill Biden was married and cheated on her husband to get with Joe. The husband has come out.
Do you think...
Here,
okay, we'll look at that. I'm sitting here thinking about George III.
Bill Stevenson is the ex-husband, right? Like Joe Biden's ex-husband believes Joe has deeper issues because he was around. He was the husband while she was the babysitter.
And how old was she as the babysitter?
I don't know. She was young.
Married to Jill Biden.
They're only like
70 to 75.
They're only like, I think, 11 years or 9 years apart or something like that. But now it's all, who is Joe Biden's Trump supporting ex, right? They call him a Trump supporter, but it's like more like the cheating aspect, right?
It's interesting that he's saying that. And so we're dealing with, he is a Scorpio, right? Biden. So I think that would be an important aspect of his life. I don't know. But George III tried to be very modest. So this was the thing about his madness. In his normal life, he was very modest. He tried to be correct and not hurt people's feelings, all of this. But when he went mad, he became extremely sexual in public, right? And he just did things that were not appropriate, especially for the time and in the palace and all of that. Joe is out front about saying how sexual he is. But is that also linked to his madness in a way? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that some sort of aspect of his subconscious that he's out there talking about?
So the weird thing is, like, with the king, his issues are not like sexual based. It's more about betrayal and climbing the ladder. Right? Like climbing the ladder. Because if you think about it, like if you look at his chart, that moon in Capricorn is in this intercepted house. It's part of the intercepted sign. Okay. On the opposite side, he's got that Neptune Venus. The progressed sun was there when Johnny Boy came along, and then he becomes prime minister in 1760 as he becomes king. So that means that he's reporting to him now.
Right. That would be awful.
Right? So, and he's a very big love. Venus, Neptune is the two lovers together, the dreamiest love. So, and it's in the 12th there. So that's why he was like, women might hear this and go, oh my God, what a misogynist, or what a, he just wanted some stay-at-home queen. I think it's more like, I'm around all this chaotic, I just want a ethereal, beautiful, real love that I can separate myself and be with somebody who's not going to be trying to, can you introduce me to this person?
Exactly.
Because that's 11th house is playing out in his life all the time. He's always having to talk to somebody. Even if he's going mad, I bet you he could be like, well, yeah, go talk to whoever, and next to the bird's nest. He would know where it's at, though. But
it's so fascinating because I'm telling you, the people who created that Queen Charlotte Bridgerton show, they had to have looked at George's chart to fill in the blanks, because in the whole depiction of him being obsessed with the transits of Venus, he is, he's literally obsessed with Venus, like Venus coming to him. And so Charlotte has to pretend to be Venus to coax him out of his madness at one point.
Right.
And he could have literally been obsessed with the energy or this idea of the ideal of Venus.
Very
Maybe,
much so.
right?
So if we do let's look at the synastry of her and him. Right? So
It was
of Sophie Charlotte.
Yeah.
So like her Mercury sits close to his sun, but she has a Mercury in Gemini. Her Juno sits right on his Mercury retrograde. So it's a very strong planet, right? And so it feels like this was what I was looking for. His idea, right, of the world he wanted, she fits that. Right? And she wants somebody who's talkative and popular and doing things because of Juno and Gemini. My partner's got to talk, and so, oh boy, he talks, he's mad. But that's how she probably gets turned on.
Well, that's interesting because in the show, again, they show her having to be by herself when she first gets to the palace, and she wants entertainment. She wants to be socializing, and he is more into his introversion and obsessions. Right.
But, she's got that moon in Virgo there at 3 degrees by his north node, but it really is in square to his Chiron. Her sun's close to the Chiron square. Her midheavens on right there, too. So all of his planets fall in her 10th house, which is good for for her to get big, which she did climb the ladder. Right? But, for him, looking at, his midheaven, her sun sits in his 10th too. They both have their sun sitting in the 10th, meaning it's very much about an arrangement.
Her north node is...
Her Mars sits on his midheaven, or not his midheaven. Sorry, that's not his 10th because he's so way off. That's his 11th. But for her, his sun sits in her 10th. Because if you just see her midheaven there, I could swap it.
Or do we know?
Right, so this is her on the inside, so his stuff all sits in her 10th. Look at that, just perfect.
Wow.
Right, then you swap it, all of her stuff sits in his 11th. So it's more like a friendship. She treats him more like a friend than a lover.
Well, that was the thing at the time. Kind of the new ideal was this companionate marriage, that you would have, the attraction obviously is important, but that you could stay together for a long time and be a family. And the family was so important for both of them, obviously for terms of lineage, continuing on with the family line.
Look at her Uranus. It sits on his literal descendant.
And what does that mean?
Well, Uranus rules his descendant, right? So and it's in Aquarius at home. So it literally is sitting right there, but it's opposed his ascendant, meaning I'll be a cool friendship partner and different, and I'm going to go way off the rails. It also squares his Pluto, meaning that, right? She is going to betray him in a crazy, radical way and blow his mind and cause him to go mad. So she's the cause of his madness.
You've heard it here
the
first,
second
folks.
time over. Because if anything, he married her. Eros sits right where that Sun Neptune progressed conjunction happened when his mom was having an affair, right? Her Eros sits on top of his Neptune Venus, so he's like, oh, I found the ultimate love, but she's deceiving because it sits in his 12th. In Cancer there.
Wow.
And her Neptune's in Cancer at 12 degrees opposing his moon. That's a very rough one.
Her Neptune
in Cancer, 12 degrees, opposite his moon in Capricorn at 10 degrees. So she's playing with his she's showing, oh, I'm over here doing this, and he's emotionally going, and then, oh, no, I'm not feeling like it anymore. What?
It's so interesting to get the male perspective on this. That I would not ever think about those things.
Well, okay, if I switched it, right? If it was her, right? it would be like a guy being like, yeah, I want to be with you so bad. Like, oh yeah, girl, fucking, we're going to get married. We're going to do all this. And then it's like, why are you at the fucking taco stand at 4 a.m. fucking slapping these hoses, but fucking, asses.
Right.
Right. But it does make that emotional understanding and what her soul, like he feels like he can reach and understand her soul. But there is this place where my emotions were clear. They were about this, and oh wait, it's not so clear anymore. So there's a lot of emotional, but especially I'm saying for her, it sits in her 12th. If we go to if we flop it, right? Let's just flip it. I mean, this is astrology, right? I don't care if it's a guy or a girl. He's got his North Node in her 12th, so he's trying to dig deeper spiritually. He's not deceiving her.
Although we're not sure about her time of birth, right?
No, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean they have it at 7 degree.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have to maybe get her time of birth more accurate through like Astrodianus, but still, I would say that off his 12th, we know for sure, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then, so since it's 12th house, would it be if he starts to lose it mentally or lose a basis in reality? He's going to fixate on her too, right? It's just going to be something that causes him to spiral out of control. Even
and she would have been cold because she has Moon conjunct Saturn.
Huh.
Right. So he's got Mercury conjunct Saturn. So she's able to emotionally hold it together, and he is trying to, but her Neptune's opposing his Moon, that makes it to where he can't control his emotions, and he already can't control his mind.
Wow.
Trying to. And she's grounded. She's a lot of earth, right? And he's a lot of air with a lot of that fire with Mars and Jupiter and Aries and a Leo rising. Like this guy's not on the ground much.
So,
she seems really boring.
Well,
I think you have pictures, right, that you could show of her, right? Like how she. I was like, what's this picture of her with a dog?
Well,
how boring as a queen.
That's what they
sensible, cheerful. That's not what her son saw in 1756.
Oh, this is Charlotte, though, right?
Yeah, I know, but he saw his mom. Or that's Charlotte. That's Charlotte. But still, she's not sensible. Well, she might have been in her way that she wanted to be shown.
But yeah, we can look at her Wikipedia has a lot.
It's kind of weird because Trump is a Gemini and Melania is a Taurus, and
I was going to ask if this would normally be a pretty good.
It's arrangement.
Really?
It's arranged.
Wow.
Meaning you do this. They don't even sleep in the same rooms too. So you can see that too. But that's probably why the Biden camp lies and puts out that him and fucking Jill have amazing sex. Right? Because we all know that Trump and Melania aren't even in the same room. Right? So, yeah, that's the picture of like me.
Well, she can't.
Because I'm not going to do anything wrong.
Well, that's the point. If you have a dog in a portrait at this time, it's symbolizing your loyalty to your husband. So that's how she's going to be
What
known.
year was that painted? After?
1781.
Oh, right. 7 years before.
They had a great marriage until that break in 1788, and things. Then it became more, the way I've always understood it was it became more of a stress on her, right? But
for a Taurus with the Moon in Virgo, it's always going to, I want it more perfect.
Well, and there she is before she got married, when she lived in Germany still, I believe. Or actually, is that the portrait?
She does have Juno and Gemini. She might have been like, well, he's black. I want something different.
Oh, George III?
No, Charlotte.
Well,
he has Juno and Capricorn, so that's why he was like, I just want a traditional wife. She's like, I want kind of a...
She did get something different. She got to be married to a king, right?
Maybe he went mad when he found out that there was a slave or something. A black servant, Charlotte's black servant, it was with her. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what they kept under wraps. Like how Queen Elizabeth kept it under wraps.
Queen Elizabeth I or second?
Second, right? About the
happened?
whole thing about how Meghan Markle's child had too much color.
Right. I don't know, but here she is with another dog with her 2 eldest sons. And what I think is funny is that she's always painted with these more feminine things in her painting too. So before it was these flowers, it was showing roses or something. Here she's got a vanity table, a mirror actually in her portrait.
And it's of herself.
Yeah. And this is 1765. So that's as a mother here. So yeah. What are you thinking?
Well, what I'm thinking is about the Regency law that gets passed to get him out, because near the end of his reign, he's lost it completely, which we're at with Biden.
And the thing with George is that his daughter, Amelia, dies in 1810. And it was after that point he was never able to kind of snap back into his senses. So...
I mean, same thing with Biden, right? After his son Beau died, he still thinks that he died in Iraq.
Yeah.
What's interesting astrologically is like the carryover for Biden is in the presidency as a vice president during the beginning of Pluto Capricorn and into Aquarius, which is the same for George.
Yep. So what do you think is happening with these mad?
Well, I think you got to look at like their conditioning based off what happens to them when they're young, based off their charts, like how I did with Biden at 1 year old, or like I did with him. I was able to call out that Mercury and be like, what happened? Oh, his dad died. Okay. It's 16, right? It's not like I'm just picking numbers out of a hat.
Right.
So with everybody in their life, they have to look at their charts more about like like if you got a lot of planets next to your sun and they're in front of your sun, you're going to progress into those. It's better to not have planets in front of your sun right away. Right? Like I don't have planets in front of my sun until Mercury, which is 26 Leo, my ascendant, and my sun is I have Venus 11 degrees and I have the sun at 0. So at 11, my parents got divorced. That's my Venus. And then at 26 is when I became a reality TV star that was on ABC and became a worldwide known astrologer. When it crossed my ascendant and Mercury, my voice and the ruler of my second and my 11th, the world knew this is my craft. Right, so I don't have like a lot of stuff, right? Like he had so much stuff. That's the problem with stelliums too.
Yeah.
People have stelliums. They think that that's a lot of power. It's like that might be true, but it also is directed. If what happened, I can go. What happened at 4? If it's 4 degrees apart. What happened at 8? What happened
what about
here?
your moon crossing it? Does it do anything or no?
When the progressed moon crosses it, when it comes, it depends on where the moon. They're in their moon phase of their chart. Like, you know.
Oh, okay.
Right. And so that's all always, but that's what's interesting is like we all coming into our Saturn return come back to our lunar return. It's 28 and a half years, 29 and a half years, right? So we all at 40 go like I'm at right now. My moon's directly in progression opposite my natal moon, and I'm turning 40. So that's why over the hill is a moon and a half cycle that we technically live usually 2 cycles to sometimes 3. And that tracks with your Uranus at the 84-year, you know, if you make it to that.
I keep thinking, where have I heard someone else talking about being 40 and something happening? It's LeBron James.
Oh.
LeBron James's son being drafted by the Lakers, and he gets to play on the team. And isn't he's almost 40 or he's 40?
Yeah, and
So
he
it's
just re-signed for 2 years or something.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for a Capricorn at the end of Pluto and Capricorn. Like the last of his identity. It won't be that anymore. But I think that's what people have to pay more attention to. Because, like, I was going to ask, like, who did King George accuse Sophia, his wife, of cheating? Oh, here. Wow. So, Queen Charlotte. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. Count Philip Kristoff. He was a Swedish count and soldier. This is who that led to the scandal.
What scandal was a count?
That it was Count Philip. Or I don't know if they got that one right.
Oh yeah, he's too. He would have been dead by then.
So known for, this is like known for her commitment to her husband and their 15 children. King George III's periods of mental illness placed significant strain on the family. But there are no credible sources. The relationship, is okay. But if he's making it, I'm sure that he would have documented it or somebody would have. They probably keep that under wrap.
Yeah.
But I think that's the problem is I think that the main thing is like at least there becomes a regency law that's passed because of George, right? So in America, we have the 25th Amendment. So it's like it always does resort in Napoleon's situation, right? They pulled him out too and put him on an island.
Right.
So to think they're not going to pull Joe Biden out is crazy because they're going to pull Joe Biden out.
So if you think about what comes up next, one of the things that you've talked about for a long time. Oh, sorry,
there's
I'm
a murder of him. Ooh.
This is something else we'll have to talk about another time. I didn't even know about this history here, but you've talked about this elsewhere that there's another similar historical moment to what we're going through right now that might predict what's getting ready to happen in the American case right now. And that's the astrology of 1856, which we have talked about, but we haven't really gone into depth about what happened to Franklin Pierce.
Yeah, so the incumbent president of 1856 was Franklin Pierce, known as the third worst president in American history. He won the 1852 election, and 1 month after being elected president, he's in a train crash with his wife and his son, and his son dies, and he already had lost a couple other kids. So he goes through a traumatic aspect, but he also is the president during the Kansas-Nebraska Act that was enforcing the Fugitive Slave Act and doesn't do anything about it. So it gets to where when the election of 1856 happens and he's a Democrat and he thinks that he's a shoo-in for his party because he was in the war, Mexican-American War, he was in the Senate, he was also in the House. So he's like a lifetime government servant who's now president, and coming into the election of 1856, he's feeling like he's a shoo-in. He beats the last of the Whig Party, and they were trying to show him as weak, but he was obviously in the war, so he wasn't that weak. His vice president died the first month in office, and he's the only president to not have a vice president through the whole term. Because the House and the Senate couldn't figure out the votes. So back then it was the Senate pro tempore that was it. Now we have it as the Speaker of the House, right? So his vice president, 1853, he dies. The whole term, none. Kind of like reminds me of Kamala Harris a little bit. Like, where is she? She doesn't go to the things it's supposed to. Like, they kind of push her in the back. But also, his Secretary of War was Jefferson Davis, who then becomes the first president and the only president of the Confederate States. Right? So he builds the whole cabinet and the whole country he's known as the president that really starts the Civil War. Right? So
because he's trying to compromise.
He's trying to compromise. He caused it. There's violence in the election, right? In the Congress during him. So look at this. It goes, Pierce was fully expected to be nominated by the Democrats. In reality, his chances of winning the nomination, let alone the general election, were slim. He was disliked. So it was about his policies and, by the way, that he didn't do things, and plus he had a Kansas debacle. It kind of reminds me of an Afghanistan debacle, or what's going on with COVID, or all these scenarios, right? People don't want him, but so when he went to the convention, he lost, and they swapped him out for Buchanan. So he's the only president in American history as an incumbent president to go to the convention, the Democratic convention, and lose in the convention, and have the party then win. And now the guy who's in your own party says, thanks, I want the keys to the White House. Now you got to leave.
Yeah.
So we're going through the same situation right now. So if you actually look at the 18 Democrat
National Convention?
Yeah, here we go. That the nominees they put up Buchanan, and people want Buchanan, so the delegates shift to and vote for Buchanan. Right? And the incumbent president was taken out. Also, this is the beginning of Stephen A. Douglas being thrown out there, even though he ends up going into the 1860 election against Lincoln and beats Lincoln in the 1858 Senate race. So we're in the same astrology of this end of Neptune and Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in 1856. And in 2022, people were already saying Biden's not going to be able to hold it down for us. And like, this is what now you're hearing the whole media and all the Democrats saying, we've known this for years, that this is a big problem and we don't want to throw Kamala Harris up there.
Right.
This is, and it's funny because they say this is unprecedented. It's never happened before. Oh no, this happened. Right. They just don't want to go into this because this is what causes the Civil War.
But isn't there also, someone in the chat said, what about RFK Jr.? Isn't there was a third candidate in this one that was pretty strong too, right? Or in that election?
Well, in that election of 1860, there were four. In 1856, it was where the Whig Party fell completely.
So that's the Republicans. Then I remember seeing
before Republican, yeah.
What was that other weird party? There was a third candidate.
The Constitution Party.
Okay.
And then there was we can do the 1856 election. And remember, Pierce is the president sitting and watching the election.
Right.
The only president to ever do that. That's an incumbent, meaning that he can run again.
Who was not picked, right?
Yeah,
so.
It was the know-nothings.
Oh, right.
And that was the end of the Whig Party. And then there was John C. Fremont, and he was part of this beginning of the Republican Party, but the alliance was with the North American, and his home state, he was from California.
I think it's so interesting that it's again, it's like a shakeup of the parties, a new party forms.
Yeah.
The old parties don't make it through. At the same time, what I think is interesting is I don't know if this is the same astrology, but in France they're having to do the whole new coalition
Right.
of the left also, and in England at the same time you've got this Labour candidate who's a knight for the Order of the Bath, or what is that what it was?
Right.
I mean, a Labour candidate who's also been knighted. It seems really weird to me that he doesn't seem like traditional working class kind of labor.
No, and at all, and very supportive of NATO in a war. That's the one. But I guess they threw up a knight for law, but he is a knight of the Order of the Bath, and Charles is like his best friend.
So weird, labor and the monarch.
Right.
But I guess it's a new monarchy.
But what's crazy to me about the 1856 election is California is blue. The runner of the first Republican ticket is John C. Fremont from California. And they lose there. But what's so funny is, if you notice, the blue states are the South, right? Because Pierce is known for saying this exact thing at the beginning of his presidency, which is kind of crazy, about slavery. Like how he just wants to look over it. He tells people, and he was going to try and overthrow Lincoln and do an insurrection on the North, and was writing letters to Jefferson Davis, but right before the Civil War, and was finally shown of all his corruption. That's the other crazy thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so he was trying to actually start an insurrection against the
North,
the new president, right? That he was going around saying, or he was starting rumors about himself.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. I don't know why they don't have it right here. They
You had it was a quote that you had talked about before, right? I can't remember what. Was that something I was looking at?
I can find it. It was about situation. That's it? They only have it one time? Oh, right here. To soften the blow to Pierce, believed that he could be nominated in 1860. And praise the admiration is for. No, that was.
To soften the blow to Pierce,
that's
the
not
convention issued a resolution. Yeah. It was right there, right?
Yeah, they just did a resolution of like putting John C. Breckinridge as the vice presidential nominee to be kind of, I don't even know, to make it feel better. Right? So we could be seeing like, well, you know what? We'll make Kamala the vice president to the new person we're putting up to make you feel better.
Yeah, because you did such a great job. We're not fully rejecting you. We'll keep this person. That's awful.
Yeah, there was. Oh yeah, I think it's right here. He was a president at a time that called for almost superhuman skills, yet he lacked such skills and never grew into the job to which he had been elected. I've been hearing that for the last 2 weeks, and most Republicans have been saying that for 3.5 years. When the White House says he is superhuman, he's so sharp, and these are unprecedented times, yet it's not happening. Or, history has accorded to Pierce administration to share the blame for the policies that incited the slavery issue, hastened the collapse of the second party system, and brought on the Civil War.
Pierce was always
He was a nationalist attempting to find a middle ground
to keep the Union together. So that's a historian's argument.
Yeah.
Right.
That he shouldn't be blamed, even though everything that brought on the Civil War is from him. But and also the cabinet that he did. So if you look at the Biden administration, and now everybody's saying that the Supreme Court situation is We're no longer a democracy from the Supreme Court's ruling. Like, if you actually hear what's really going on, the Democrats are doing it again and replaying it in the same astrology in the same time. And a lot of people have been freaking out because I said this in 2020 in April. I said, you're going to see the DNC go crazy near the end of Neptune and Pisces and swap candidates and do all this crazy stuff and get ready to, right? And people are tripping out.
That, and I remember I was here. I don't know if I was over there or what, because I was thinking, really? In the back of my mind, I was like, because you can think of the history, but then you think, that's not going to happen today. And, you know, that's one of those reasons that I feel like when people always say, we need to not repeat history, you don't see it in the moment when it's happening.
No.
Right? That's
No.
why you need the astrology to, I mean, that's why the astrology is useful, to say, not that these things are happening exactly the same way, but there are elements from these different times in history. And, you know, one of the things I think is really interesting, and it's like on a personal level, talking about astrology, if it's okay if I say one more thing about it, was earlier you had talked about, before we did the show, right? You talked about your reading with Michael Luton a long time ago, and where he was telling you about the impact of the Pluto transit in your life. And I was just thinking that's the way astrology is supposed to work. You're supposed to be aware this is a potentially huge transformative transit that's going to happen. And here are the examples of, look, it happened in, you know, the Revolutionary War, it happened in the Reformation. Obviously, that's what we're trying to do with our show, right? Is teach all this stuff. But it's not that you can then say, well, I'm going to go out and stop history from happening again. I think you have to look at, these are the energies, or this is the stuff that's been put into motion, and we are going to be faced with some of the same lessons or the same things we're going to deal with. Like, what's the nature of power? How do we want to be ruled? Do our institutions working the way that we wanted them, that we set them up to? Or, you know.
Yeah, so if you think about what makes King George's chart so interesting to me, is that when Pluto comes into Aquarius during the Revolutionary War, it opposes his 0 degree Leo ascendant. So what is it? King George, down with King George.
And he is.
It's a letter to the Declaration of Independence is to the king, King George, to him.
That is a horrible Pluto opposition.
So what do you think I'm going through with the astrology community? Fuck the Leo King. I hate the Leo King. I don't want anything to do with him. He tells too much truth that shatters my reality. There's nothing I can do.
Right. So,
like, this is Pluto saying there's nothing you can do. Just keep being yourself, and nobody's going to like you, but a very few bunch of people. The real ones will like you.
Well, do you think
what's funny too is that when you read about the tax and the tariffs, it wasn't King George who brought him, it was the Parliament who brought him.
Was it even his fake stepfather?
Yes. Well, I mean, it was 1760 through 63. He was prime minister.
So he's the one who was orchestrating the whole 7 Years' War.
Yeah.
That's the reason for the Stamp Act.
Correct.
That is why, you know, the colonies were unfairly taxed.
Correct. And I'm not trying to give King George some credit, but like, it's like, because he's in the position that he's in, the letter has to come to him. It's not like, let's go to that Labor Party new weird glasses guy, right? Because he doesn't have 0 Leo.
So you're saying
that 0 Leo was targeted by Pluto during the Revolutionary War the most. King George. That's his ascendant. And so, you know, think about his wife at that time being like, well, I want to be with people that like my husband. So, you know, I relate to his chart in that sense of like being targeted. I'm not playing victim. I'm understanding that this is Pluto opposed my 0-degree sun. So.
And here we have it played out in the whole country, right? Because even though it's more of a constitutional monarchy at this point, he still represents the government of England. And so what's happening to him personally happens at large to the whole country.
Yeah. But it's interesting because you look at so many people who have Leo ascendants and Leo suns, especially I am a Leo ascendant, so it's mainly Leo ascendants during Pluto and Aquarius. We are the most targeted people in history of Pluto Aquarius. Like, people just don't want real, they want collectivism, groupthink, following trends. They don't want people who speak from their heart. They want people who speak what they want to hear. So it becomes scary because, like, to live as a Leo or a Leo ascendant or both like me in a world that wants to not be about having fun and love and all that, but be about being stuck online or drinking tea and wearing a blanket at 7 p.m. like, or wearing a mask. Like today, gosh, whose daughter was it? Oh, it was, he just got divorced from J-Lo. Ben Affleck's daughter went to the city of Los Angeles today and said, you need to get rid of the no mask mandates that are happening around LA County because I got sick in 2019 and I might have died in 2020 through 2023 of COVID if it wasn't for the masks. And if you see all the people today, they go wear masks when they go to rallies and all that stuff. So if you really look at it, like, you know, it's like the world's going to forget about Leo for a long time.
It's interesting. I just thought, well, I wonder what the king of France was, the king who eventually was guillotined.
Yeah.
He's a 29-degree Leo with
really
Mercury there. But he would have been...
Oh, and Jupiter?
Oh, yeah. Wow. So he was a super Leo, huh? Yep. And he was the one who was victim to the ultimate Pluto and Aquarius revolution, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I got guillotined.
You're not going to be guillotined. We're not going to let it happen.
I already have crazy. You know all the stalkers. You've been here. I have a video of that one guy I yelled at so you can get in your car. Like,
I know.
It's crazy, the crazy people after me. So.
But look, it's all 12th house for him also,
yeah,
right?
I mean.
That's so strange. And Neptune again, I don't know. That's 11th
and
house,
that's
though, right?
the 12th house is the house of hidden enemies. So that's why with George III, or even with Biden, but Biden has Scorpio 12th house, right? With Libra. So it's like his personal secret energy, or his hidden enemies are like within like his deeper personal relationships.
So would it be Gavin Newsom, the Libra, or
yeah,
who's
or
the other Libra that I know is out there?
Or
Isn't
I mean,
he a
it's just
Libra?
like people that are in his family. Like I think Hunter's gonna, you know, expose his dad, right?
Wow.
Like to save his butt, because once it gets out, all the deals and the business deal stuff, and his dad's dead, his dad's not gonna be there to protect him. Right? So, and he's an Aquarius, so.
Oh, wow.
But if you think about 12th house, it's hidden enemies. So, if, you know, it's kind of sad because the 6th house is where the enemies become seen.
The 6th house?
Yeah. So like I have Pluto transiting my 6th and everybody's made themselves known. I hate you. I have more Reddits than any astrologer that's ever lived, and it's all hate.
Oh, no.
Right? So Like this transit's been really eye-opening of like, wow, I guess people really hate me. Like, you know, and I have to remember the people that love me, but that number's very small compared to how many hate me in actual data. So it's like, wow. Scariest. That's kind of scary. It's like, I didn't know people hated me so much. And every day I got to kind of walk the line of like, I'm okay.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of people right now, I can't see the chat, but they're probably all saying, I would hope everybody's saying they don't hate you.
No,
so you've got a lot of people who are very loyal to you as well.
Yes. It's just very small.
Smaller, maybe.
It's small. So that's
okay,
the scary
next time
part.
I'm going to we need to look at some Leos who triumphed through all this.
I've looked.
Because
And they're
Napoleon
not,
was a Leo too.
Yeah, he was after.
Why
His
do we
Pluto,
keep finding
right?
these Leos to talk about? I'm a horrible co-host.
Because the bad shit happens to Leos and Pluto and Aquarius. Like even in the Revolutionary War, find me a Leo that's a big founding father or a big star. Nope.
I remember I went looking for that once, and it was
it's all Aquarians and Pisces and Capricorns.
Was it Nathan Hale? It was someone who really didn't do much
at all. I know.
He started it, and then Pluto obviously went into Aquarius.
Yeah.
And he like almost lost his tavern, and I don't remember what else. I need to stop talking about it though. I think it turned out great. It was better for it.
But I've searched.
Was Benedict Arnold?
No, he was a Capricorn.
Okay, see. It's bad for Capricorns too, maybe.
But it's like, that's what's sad is there's no Leos.
No, there is. It's William. Isn't one of George's sons?
I mean, he's the king. He's on the wrong side of the fence.
But it was after he was the king after.
Right, but
he
again,
profited from the Regency.
but yeah, okay, after, and that's a long way in. Right, so
he was having a great time during the Regency too. A lot of people didn't like him.
Right.
He was very hated.
But I mean, that's why, like think about, like if I put the second chart as Trump's chart, right? Like this is where, like, Trump's not gonna just be an easy shoo-in. He's a Leo rising. Like, there's no way. People think he's gonna be an easy shoo-in. No way. Right? Like, people don't like Leos that like make jokes, or like Trump just got caught on camera playing golf and being like, I got him out of the race. He's gone. He's gone. He's already like his sources, and he's a president, right? So he's like, I already know. Everybody knows he's gonna step down soon. And I gotta go deal with Kamala, and we all know she's horrible. Like, and starts talking shit on her, like she's a piece of shit. Like, you know, what a piece of work.
Is
like,
there
look, you think she
about...
can handle all this Ukraine? You think she can handle all this stuff, the border, right? It's all like hidden camera stuff that just came out. So that's the thing about Leos. We're gonna always be that way. We're gonna always say what's really with a joke, and people are so sensitive.
Yeah, people. It's really interesting the humor that's come out too. This week, I've seen some really mean-spirited comedy about Joe Biden from like all the like I don't know if it was Jimmy Kimmel. I can't remember who it was, but I saw a lot of skits finally coming out where people are making fun of him, and I was thinking, wow, it's really mean humor. It's not. It's like it's the kind of humor people do when they want you to leave. It's just like, we're poking fun at you, and this is going to get worse if you don't get out of here. That's the kind of feeling that I've had from it.
See, Trump. Trump has that Leo rising, and his 12th house is 1 degree Leo. So right now, Pluto's been on his 6th house line transiting and been opposing his 12th house cusp to his 11th. It comes back at a Capricorn, and I would say that would help Trump. But when Pluto comes back into Aquarius, and when it gets past that 1st degree and it gets into the 2nd and 3rd degree next year, that's no favor. And opposing his Pluto in the 12th, and with Mars, he has Uranus squares Mars right now. I know because my Mercury and a rising are 26 Leo, and we both sit on Regulus, and there's always a great fall with Regulus people. So To think that Trump, like that's the thing though, is you see people like us rise really fast into epic proportions, and then when the transits come, it just takes us down. That's part of the Leo drama, right? It wouldn't be a good drama without the fall.
Okay, so it could be kind of a fall, but also a reconfiguration, and now you're the king of the normal people, or you have a different following, or I mean, it. Well, like
I did that VR horoscope, you know, because
that was weird that people had such a problem with it.
Like, and people didn't realize, like, I was in a hotel room. It was July 4th. I couldn't do it at the house we were at. There was 50 people, right? Outside was fireworks and people. Then at my hotel, the lobby, there was people. They had a business room that wasn't a business room. It was like in the main like lobby with a computer. I'm like, oh, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So I'm in my house, in my room, and it's pitch black, and Aurora's asleep, and I'm like, I got to be really quiet. And the only way that I could show my face was in VR, and show a chart and be like, oh, okay. People lost it. And they thought it was AI. That's the craziest part. They actually thought that it was AI and that it wasn't my real voice, but it's me being quiet because I don't want to wake up my daughter. And then you hear her wake up.
But you also put those weird glasses on yourself.
Well, yeah, because that's my persona in Apple Vision Pro. That's my persona. Is I have glasses because I'm coding in there, making AI or doing stuff. But
I know it was very weird. Is it that a Leo just doesn't look right with some kind of an artificial element on them?
I think that people, well, I did the first VR horoscope in the world in 2017 and helped them develop the first astrology VR app in 2017, Hyperator. And, you know, people thought that was super cool. But now they don't understand the difference between AI, augmented reality, virtual reality. So they thought it was AI. They thought that that wasn't me.
Our worst fears are coming true.
That was cameras and using pictures that are me. It's me in there. It's me talking. It's me looking at the stuff. And they thought that was AI.
Yeah. I thought it was funny watching you.
Right. I mean that was just like a Leo trying to give service and give its heart, not in a situation where I had no other option. Mm-hmm. And most people on July 4th went to sleep. I had to stay up and do the horoscope.
Right. I think it's that there is something that must happen during this transit that makes people just really be suspicious and not trust the people who are leading and giving everything. Because that's the thing that I think's been so interesting that I've always watched you. I wrote a comment too. It was in the High Vibe community where I was just like, come on, people. I wrote a comment about how I've watched you while I've been here do everything for people. And people will complain because it's like, it doesn't come out at 8 a.m. or at 8 p.m. every day. Like the computer has been programmed.
Right.
It doesn't matter what happens. You're always there. Right. Like I said, he had a car accident, almost died. And then I'm thinking, we'll have to cancel the class, whatever. And
Deep Astrology, when I had broken ribs and I had a minor concussion.
And then the next day, didn't you do your master class? Love master class.
I mean, you got to do it.
Just kept going, and
it was in the middle of it was March 2020.
I know.
It was the first weeks of the lockdowns, and I'm like, I'm not locking down.
Oh, and then even that, you're like, I can't stay home because
I moved in here.
I might get locked out. I can't give the content to people, so you move in here, and it's funny. Like,
well, I think with Trump, that's where, or actually, I'm gonna go to George III. The history calls him mad. The history calls the same chart that I'm just overlayered of George Trump as mad. Who's the mad one? Neither. They're expressing themselves over crazy shit that's going on in their lives.
And then
the people who look as the normal ones, like his wife, who was really the one cheating, right, is looked at as stable and sensible and normal and perfect and good. Yeah. So I think that's the lesson of Pluto and Aquarius with leaders is that the ones that are expressing themselves get taken down because they want you to fit in a program. Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn and Uranus, so it's like this collective control. Like the collective mindset and the collective control system, that you know, that's you're too unique and expressive in the most raw way of yourself. Like that, like you can be unique, but that's still a program. Like you can have purple hair, but that's because you saw that. Like a Leo doesn't go, I'm going to go get purple hair because somebody's got purple hair.
Right.
A Leo's like, I'm going to do this shit. Nobody else is doing this. Like, I'm just, well, I got to say it. You know, that's a Leo thing. Like, I just got to say it. Ah, fuck, whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And like, that's what both of them, look at him. Both of them have Saturn and Venus conjunct.
Well, and think about how many times Trump's been in trouble for just speaking. For just saying what he's thinking. But a lot of people now are saying they appreciate that about him. And George III, when he was having his times of madness, like we were reading earlier, he couldn't stop talking, right? That was the thing that he had to keep going and talking. I think it'd be interesting to look at his human design too, but obviously that's for...
Oh, George III's?
Yeah.
I have
what was going on
genetic matrix.
Oh, okay.
We can just look real quick.
And while that's happening, I wanted to point out, someone said Obama and President Clinton are both Leos.
Right, and because they're not expressing how they really feel, they're liked.
Is that to do with maybe the women they're with? Like to have a Scorpio wife?
No, I think it's just like if you just look at it, like you hear them go along with whatever the collective's saying. So like Obama's tweets are all pre-programmed and he's not tweeting it himself, right? Right? Like you're not seeing them come out and say what they really feel about life.
So maybe they're just expressing themselves somewhere else.
They're staying alive. So the Leo that stays alive is gonna, basically that's like a lie. It's being false, right? It's better to be yourself, to be real, than to be the sun and shine your brightness instead of put on some sort of like weird like tarp over the sun and be like, no, I'm not that bright. Like, because all the planets are complaining.
We'll just cover you up with some mist.
Right? Like if all the planets are complaining, like there's a problem. And, you know.
Famous birthdays today. Giorgio Armani.
No. Do they not have monarchy on here?
They've got to have George III. Is it under King or?
I'll put King in and see if they have King. I put King George in it. Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. They don't. Oh, well. So George, like I see, they could have George, King of England, George III, King of England.
Okay, yeah, George.
So let me go back. Wow, they actually got a lot of old guys up in here.
That guy has my type.
George the first, George the second, George England the third. He's a 3-5.
What's a GP?
He's a pure generator, and he's triple split. Wow, that's so rare. 3-5, but he's triple split. I mean, there's that 3-5 coming in, right? Like he's he's just gonna roll into whatever's happening. Like, oh, fuck, I'm in here now. What? Right? Especially the first 30 years are really difficult because he's got a 3-line until his Saturn return. But then he's got that subconscious heretic. Like he's actually calling out in his craziness, like what's happening to him. And people are like projecting like, no, you're crazy. When really that means what he said about I'm being cheated on should be looked at more. But that triple split's the weird one because that means he's not defined individually. And then when you're split, you get defined off someone else. When you're triple split, two areas of your chart are going to connect and one's going to get left out. So there's always, that could swap around. So in a triple split chart, it's a very weird soul. Like they're the kind of people where I feel like we're connected on this level, but why do you always turn that one area off? It's because then the other split will then take over and then cut out another split, right? So like he has the triple split by being up here, being down here, right? So it could be like he could be in this one way, and then he can be moving into this other place of his split, right? So his split's splintering. It's really hard to know where they're unpredictable as far as you don't know. So people just are like, they're crazy because I don't understand how they switch their vibe, especially he is a pure generator. So he's going to manifest through what he responds to, but his response is not going to look the same with a triple split. Plus he's a 3-5, so he's got to go experiment. He's got to go fuck up. He's got to go fuck up.
That's probably
the
what
lesson.
he started doing.
Yeah.
Because he'd been so trained.
And at least his G center's defined, so he actually knows who he is and what he likes. That's why he knew what wife to have. But he didn't know how to express himself with his undefined throat and with a lot of those gates that are activated in his design and his personality. See the black and the red, especially that 12th gate there has both. And then he's got a design gate and a personality gate all there on the right side, which is about other people and emotions, right? And he's an RAX consciousness too. So he knows somewhat of what he is, but he's searching for who he is this life. You know, that's the problem with right angle beings, and that's most people. So he actually doesn't know. He also, if you look at his environment, it's mountains. That's why he would like to go around some place where he's kind of away from things and have a better observation. He's an observer, right? And then if we look at
Funny that he spent so much time in an observatory.
Right? And then he's got outer vision. His determination's open. Then he's got he's got open. Huh. He is a weird bird.
I'm a generator, but single definition.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
so
that's.
I can't imagine. I
triple
don't know what
triple
you would
split
do.
is. My dad was triple split and a generator. And he was an Aquarius.
He could do all those screenplays.
Yeah, my dad could do all these things, but like I would have to know as a son, like, okay, my dad's in this place. Okay, I'm not going to get this side. I got this side now, I'm going to enjoy this side, but I also get that other side that I like when it's mixed with that, but they can't always be mixed. Yeah. It's like it's like oil and water and then bread. So the bread works with water and it works with oil, but the oil and the water don't work together.
And an outside person can't determine what it's going to be because it's all
neither can the person who has it.
Wow.
So it's either I'm using the bread with oil or I'm using the bread with water. Right? So right when you're like, this oil and bread is so good, it's enriching, it's succulent, it's like, nope, I'm going back to water and bread. What? Well, it's still bread, but with water. So it's kind of like being in jail, bread and water. Right? So that's what's interesting. And plus, when Pluto came in to Aquarius for him, it activates that 60th gate. The end of Capricorn in the beginning and the first 2 degrees of Aquarius is the 60th gate of limitation, which he has defined in his chart in his design in red. What's crazy is went black there, and the 3 is mutation, right? So that's the channel of mutation. So right now, the world is going through that transit in black in the 60th gate of limitation, right? So he had that in his design, but he didn't know how to, like he could deal with the limitation aspect of things, but it's all about that you limit yourself in life, right? So most people are limiting themselves. I was lucky I've got the 63, so I have that fully defined. So like I can mutate through the limitations of where we're at in life and be like, oh fuck, I'll get through this. And I have that 3 that's super defined and very powerful. And most people have to look at that other side, that 3, where we were seeing so much at 2 with North Node Uranus and Taurus, or if you've got planets Scorpio, Taurus line, like that's all there in the middle right there. And Aquarius, all fixed energy is in the middle right there. So that's where his pre-60th gate, if he's born in June and 88 days prior, and looking at his Mars, it was probably in Aquarius. And I bet you his design 60, oh, there it is, Mars. I swear that's how I do it. I was in my head right there. You can see Mars 60th right there.
What is that? 60th means the gate?
The gate. So
why does the point
so
4?
Your design chart's 88 days prior to your birth. So the black is your persona, right? Of your personality, meaning that's your birthday.
Okay.
These are where your natal planets are. But your design chart is 88 days prior to your birth. So in my head, I went, oh, he's got Mars in Aries at 7 degrees. Oh, 88 days prior. Yeah, that's Mars in Aquarius. Mars is sitting at that 60th Aquarius gate at the first couple degrees of 88 days before he was born. You'll know if somebody can do human design if they can do it in their head.
Well,
if you can't do it in your head with the planets, then why are you doing human design?
Right. For me, I look it up. I had no idea
Because
about
it's that simple, right? I took his birthday in my head and went 88 days prior in 1738. Okay. And then thought, I know his Mars is in Aries. I know it's not going retrograde because the sun is up in front of Mars, right? So the Mars retrograde already happened, so Mars ain't going retrograde, so I can go 88 days back and not have to worry about Mars doing something weird. It's going to be on its traditional path. And then I already know that's a fixed gate, so I already know it's going to be, that makes sense, Aquarius, okay. And it's going to be at the degrees that the gates tell you the degrees. So those degrees are the end of Capricorn to the beginning of Aquarius, and those first couple degrees of Aquarius, and the last like 3-4 degrees of Capricorn. But that's also 88 days prior to his birth. So you're not going to see that in his natal chart unless you run it 88 days prior. So that's where, if you look at his chart too, he had his spleen defined, and that's actually where one of his channels are, the 2838, which is a really good channel. It's the channel, I have that channel too. It's a channel of struggle. So he's able to, with his root chakra and with that spleen, he's not somebody who doesn't know a threat when it's coming. He knows when it's coming. He knows how to deal with it, and he knows how to get through it. So that's why he didn't go mad and get pulled off. Like, he's able to get through it. People who have got that are survivors, and they actually can understand, I've got to deal with this and I'll fucking deal with it. People who don't have those, life's too hard. It's too much of a struggle for them. They don't know how to get through things. So actually, he would have been able to get through his madness better than people might think. And then his other channels, the 515 and rhythm, which that's pretty cool because, like, honestly, when you think about it from a couple aspects, one, he knows his way to be because his 5 is down there in the sacral, connected to the G center, and those gates, especially there on that left side, that's for him finding his rhythm always of like, this is how I make it happen because I know what I like and I know what I want. So it's like that, all the intricate things that he likes to do, that's really connected deeply in, and it's a personality gate for him, or channel, because it's black. So if we look at it, it's his Venus connected to his Earth. So, and he has Venus conjunct Neptune, and so that also puts Neptune at that same gate at 15 as well, which you can see right there, Neptune 15.
I like a profession, royalty.
Right, and then his last one is logic, the 4 to the 63. So that's in the Anja, right, the top right here, right, in the head, and that's gate 4, youthful folly, and then logic. So he's having fun with what he does, and that's his best gate, I would say, because it's personality and design combined to make that full channel. So he has a full design channel. Oh no, it's half and half. So both those channels are his best. Then he has a personality one. So really, like, I don't think that he was like fully mad, except for the things that really took away his excitement about things, his rhythm of just being excited. He's a 3/5. He's experimenting. He's having fun. And it really would have been Debbie Downers. And I would say that his wife was probably a really big Debbie Downer.
Well, what was I going to say? I was just thinking about how the not self type, right, is frustration. Isn't that the type for a generator? When
Yeah,
you're not
and manifesting generator.
Yeah. So I wonder, like in 1765 when he was having that first, he was having a cold or gallstones, I think it was, right? They started to say it was like depression. So I wonder if when he was ill, also when he was having illnesses, and he wasn't able to go do the things that he would always do to keep himself grounded, or whatever it would be. I don't know if it's to keep himself grounded. That must have really thrown him off. Anytime his ability to move freely and pursue what he wants, when that was interrupted, it seems like it caused him to go out of balance.
That's that struggle in channel, because it's in the spleen and the root. It's awakening, right? His spleen and his survival instinct, and paying attention to the surroundings and being like, hey, this is not a safe rooted space. So what was he doing that caused it is what it's trying to help him look at. And that's the struggle, is like accepting the awareness of this isn't a safe thing to be doing. It's not grounding. It's not good for me, right? And that's where that 28th can be kind of the preponderance of the great. And then the 38 line is opposition, right? So it's that like, I can be great, but something's opposing me, and I've got to figure out why.
Wow. Huh.
Right? So like, to go to your frustration, that causes the frustration, which focuses on, let me now respond when something shows up to make me feel good. But that's what's hard about being a generator or manifesting generator, is especially if you're a pure, not emotional, which he's not. He's got his emotional center undefined, right? So he's going to feel other people's that got that defined, like projectors and emotional beings, a lot, right? And then feel it extreme.
So if someone else is off in his household, it affects him.
Yeah,
really
it plays through him.
Interesting.
It's hard because pure manifesting generators really do feel other people more than they think that they, like, people are like, no, you didn't hear me. You didn't feel me. No, I felt you so much that it's so extreme. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's an empty, like, so people feel the power of people with their centers defined. So if like, people like to be around people because it's like, well, if you got a full sacral and a spleen and a root and a G center, you're pretty grounded. You know what you like and you know who you are. I like when I'm around you because I feel that way. The worst one is the undefined emotional center, which I have. That is like, most people who have that, I feel everything that they fucking, I'm like, that's not a fun place to get. It's like, can you just like not be emotional for a second? Right? But that's where it's like hard. And the other thing is, he had his undefined, heart center. That's difficult because that 25 gate's trying to, and it's a design gate too. It's a little subconscious. And that's where that pride steps in to try and prove himself. So he probably tried to prove himself to his wife, prove himself to the people. And he's coming from that gate of innocence, right? Like he's truly coming from a really good place because he understands that he's a good person. He's not the person that would do the things that he did, but he's the kind of person who, unfortunately, would do good acts to people who are doing bad acts to him.
Wow.
Like, almost overlooking it. Like, I'm willing to overlook it. So is he mad? I would say no. I think that people should have listened to his madness and looked at the culprits more. Which, based off what I did with his progressions and all that, 100% his dad dying, his mom bringing Johnny Boy in and using him to get the house to have her so he could get away and say that it was his confidant and highest advisor so he could have an affair and leverage to become prime minister. And that's the progression that makes him triggered when his own wife does the same thing to him years later. That makes him go mad.
Wow.
And he doesn't put that on the people.
I wonder if anything did happen, because he was so obsessed with the transits of Venus. Like, I know we probably have to wrap things up, but I have to have this one last question, unless we're still going. But
that's
for
fine.
the transits of Venus, where he was so obsessed with it, where he sent people around the world to measure, to be ready to measure it when it happened. And that's partly what Cook's voyages were all about, was setting up, the scientific areas where they could measure the transits of Venus. But personally for him, why would that have done something in his own chart in 1769?
Well,
What would it have done?
Well, if you see his head, he's got a lot of he's defined there both, right, on his lower and his upper. Mm-hmm. And he's got that gate 63 with that gate 4, making that powerful logic connection. So he's tickled by what he loves. It gives him joy. He also knows what he wants, so he'll go after it. He's a pure generator, and he's a 3-5. The experiment and the heretical aspect of, like, I can figure this out. I could share something with the world that's going to be wonderful. The problem is he doesn't have a defined throat, so he never does really get to it actually going somewhere to become something in his time, or to be known for being a scientist or a logical person or an astrologer or anything. Like, that's the problem with the undefined throat. It's like, then he should have had somebody with a defined throat, especially being a king. He could be like, okay, now take all this and put this in a book and put this out in a really amazing way that's going to blow the world.
Right.
But he didn't.
Oh. Does he have a similar human design to Biden or Trump, either of them? Do you know?
We'll keep his chart open, and then we'll... He actually has a really cool chart. It's different. That triple split's a little crazy, but...
Yeah, I think he's one of the people, when people say, who would you like to meet? I think I'm going to put George III on my list, because even as an American, I know it's heretical for us Americans to say that, but I want to see what someone like that was like.
Right. Look at the picture. Genetic matrix, wake up. Like, part of the people from this believe that taking the vaccine was about changing your genetics for the 2027 change that we're going to go through.
For human design?
Yeah, like the guy who runs Gene Keys and all that. He actually was telling people, and intentionally took it because he wanted to mutate his DNA, because he feels like when we get to this new cross and we get out of cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, that he wanted to mutate. That's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Oh man, Joe Biden is a weirder bird, right? 4-6 pure generator. He's split, and it's a big split, large. He's also the contagion.
What is the
his right angle cross is contagion 4. And he's kind of a weird one, because he could have almost been a projector, but because there was a lot of Scorpio, he would never have been. But you see all of his open centers at the bottom. So, like, Joe Biden doesn't even know what's safe and what's not safe. He doesn't have a grounded place. He feels everybody's emotions. He's always trying to prove something, not from an innocent place either. He's got no lines and no gates except for the 44th gate that connect to his heart in any kind of way, which is trying to coming to meet, but he doesn't come to meet at all. Like, there is no, like, that's why he feels like he's there, but he's not. And the 4-6 too is, he's really an opportunistic role model, right? Like, I just get social in order to try and show everybody that I know better than you.
Wow.
Right? And his cognition is smell. How funny is that, right?
His environment is kitchens?
Yeah, kitchen's wet.
Kitchens?
So I have kitchens dry. Kitchens is about being in a stimulating environment.
Where the things are cooking.
But when it's wet, it's like, think of like, I'm dry, right? So a fast kitchen with everything moving, chopping, and the fire, and like, wet is more saturation, like making a soup. Like he likes to be in a place where it's busy, but it's really saturated. So it kind of reminds me of when you see him laying on the beach and he can't get up.
I haven't seen him laying on the
Because
beach.
he likes to watch people. Kitchens like to watch things happening.
That seems very
but wet
scorpionic.
is very like, I'll just sit here. And he has his cognition is smell, right? So hence he loves
I
to
would have never
smell.
guessed that.
He loves to smell hair, right?
He's a contagion like Typhoid Mary. Yes, that's the historical.
Well, it's crazy because he's very undefined. He only has two channels, the channel of discovery and abstraction. And it's the 29 to 46. So this is really the abysmal connected to the pushing upward. So he knows he knows the place he wants to get to, because that 46 gate, it's in both of him, right? So it's like, okay, he's understanding of like where he wants to go and how to get there, but that's where his Neptune is, and that's what's weird. That's the planet that went stationary retrograde in his progress chart in 86. That Neptune at 46. Then design-wise, he's got it there too, so that's where it's hitting, unless he has something else there. No.
So he's always pushing upwards. That's what that 46 is versus.
Well, the abysmal, meaning that it's from the sacral, right? Like there's a part of him that's like, well, I don't know if I can do it, but I want to do it, so I'm going to go get there. And it feels like it's out of context, but he'll do it anyway, and he'll get there. And that's the only thing he actually focuses on with his 46 gate, is the only gate in his G center.
Pushing upwards. That's all he focuses on.
And the abysmal. Like, I don't know if I want to get there even if I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to go try. And then look at how him and King George both have their Anja defined and their head defined, right? Like it's pretty crazy, right? So, but his is opposite. His is the 64-47, which is that abstraction. So it's weird that he's had brain surgery and all that weird shit. So like his madness is, you know where his madness is? Him thinking he can manifest. Look at all of his gates in his undefined throat that aren't connecting anywhere. So his madness is the feeling that he's a manifester when he's not.
Huh. So
That he doesn't do anything. Everybody else does everything for him.
And he's just telling people.
He
what
just knows how to
wants,
get
but-
up and then talk 4-6, right? I'm going to talk. I'm going to be social. And then, okay, put me in the position to where I can kind of role lead, right? So like, that's what, like, it's all to get to a place. Now, not all 4-6s are like that for bad things, right? They use it for good. And maybe there's been good things in his life, but it's like seeing that much in his throat chakra with undefined, and it's hitting every place. It's trying to be a penta down the center. It can't hit his G center. So he's got an issue with actually it all working.
So with someone who's got that much lit up but not connected, if someone connects to it, can they use his voice for themselves? Or like, if you're that open,
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of like how King George and him have it. Like, they have these ideas and the way that they are, and maybe the madness is that they don't know how to actually bring it to market per se, or actually make it happen. Right? So it's more about that he doesn't know how to express it from himself. It's more of like, well, I'll do it because in this case, my 4 line, I need to be social. I need to have my friends and all these people or the Congress or anybody like me. So let me say it the way that that's done instead of the way that I really want to do it. That's where design, like understanding your actual profile is very important, because it's all coming from that. Like, it's like, okay, your undefined throat is undefining itself and speaking from a space of the social aspect and how to, I always want to be a role model. I always want to be that I'm on the roof showing that I've got wisdom and clarity and all these things. instead of just like, that's where when he starts trailing off with his crazy dementia, and especially his abstraction of the mind, right? He's got abstraction and discovery. He actually needs to go there more and see what would happen. But, you know, he's put himself in this role model position of what he is not. So it's like where King George can just be mad with the 5 line and the 3 line, like, I'm fucking crazy. I'm experimenting, like my wife's cheating on me or whatever, right? And people are like, okay. But like with Biden, he puts himself such at a high place subconsciously, right? That then he's put himself in a social position. But does he actually act upon it? So like, that's the thing, right? It's like now he's caring about black people when he really wanted to put them all in jail, right?
Well, it's interesting that he was in trouble so many times when he tried to run for president in '88. I don't remember when it was. There was a time where he was plagiarizing speeches, right? And so it's like, and he got caught a lot of times taking other people's stories. So it's almost that he saw, oh, that person is a role model because they have this story. So I'm going to take that story and try to be the role model. Correct. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and or how he's like, he makes his family his role models too, right? Like how he's like, my uncle died in a plane crash and got eaten by a bunch of people, right? Like the cannibals. When then it was factually not true. Or when he's like, my son died in Iraq. No, he was in Iraq, but he died back at home, right?
Yeah.
Right? So like, you know, it's always trying to present it, and even other people, as this like, well, I know my son was this great, so I should be able to get this socially back to me. But it's like when it's that much defined, and a lot of it is all of his Scorpio and stuff defined there, and his nodes, like it's like too much bullshit, right? Like that's not actually real.
And then, have you looked at Trump's? Does he have a similar type of chart, or?
Yeah, well, Trump's manifesting generator, so he's the one that can actually do all the things and make it happen, right? Like that's the manifesting generator part, is you're gonna always have the throat chakra with that sacral, you know, like be a big part. But I think in Trump's case, his might be his heart center. That's what's defining it. It's another motor, right? So it's about motors being connected that makes a manifesting generator so good. But I think Trump has his heart, and he has Trump is emotional too, manifesting generator. So yeah, so it's his heart to the throat to the sacral. See that right there? And then he's single defined, right? So both the people who are mad are split, right? So Trump, like most people who are not single, when they're split, they can be coming off more mad because they need to have somebody else. They have to, right? You can't do this life alone or do anything alone. There's always somebody, like you're not an independent business owner as a triple split. As a split, there's always somebody else with you. That's why his son or Obama, or in this case, the Democratic Party or whoever's behind the scenes doing all, you know, like there's not just him doing it. But like, see how Trump's the only one, a mad person doesn't have a throat defined. Because why would you manifest madness?
Right. Huh.
Right. So, and it's defined to his heart. So it's funny that he's people think, oh, he's narcissistic. He actually is not here. He doesn't even need to be, he's not trying to prove himself. He's like, no, I am this. I have the courage to be this. I don't need to prove it. I am it. Right.
And he's telling people about it, you know?
Yeah.
He's not afraid
but it's hard because Trump can't define himself. He's got nothing in his G center. So he actually doesn't know really who he is. He just knows what to do and how to do it, and he goes off his emotions and he feels it for a while, and then he reacts off that because his manifesting generator is going to react fucking the fastest out of anybody. So, but he's got, like that's where, for me, both Biden and Trump both don't have their spleens defined. So they're not good with health. That means that they don't understand when it's going bad. They don't want to look at it like, I gotta, I had a hernia when I was 18, but like, when you're older, men get hernias too, like more often stuff. Like, undefined spleen, like both Biden and Trump would be like, I'm going to just push off this hernia another couple weeks, just push it in here. This gout I'm having, it's not that bad, right? So I would say that that's a problem for both of them, is health. But like, I think with Biden, the reason why you see him kind of fade off into the sunset with his eyes and stuff is like he actually really doesn't know what he feels much, unless it's through people. But like about the world and about life, he's connecting it to a person at a country or whatever. He's not connecting to the whole situation. He's connecting to just that split version. Whereas Trump's defined emotions are like, no, I feel this, I'm reacting to this, and he can see a better picture. And he's got his head not defined, but he has his Anja defined. So, and he's got a lot of channels. The main one, that money line, which a lot of people don't have in mating, and Trump has lots of kids, and that's at 59-6. So that's where the emotional is, the friction. And that's where I think his passion can be, but also his problem can be, right? Like he can emotionally feel too much for people sexually, right? And have a baby with him. Like maybe the Stormy Daniels thing's even worse. Like maybe she had to get an abortion, you know what I mean? They just didn't want, that was what the hush money was about or something, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like nobody's thought about that, but looking at that chart, I'd be like,
it's interesting.
Did you did you have to go get the pill?
Yeah.
Like, right? Like she was broke maybe and was like, because she even said he didn't wear a condom supposedly, right?
I didn't know that.
They said that in the court in New York.
Oh.
But if you think about looking at his mating line, it's like those spermies work really well.
Huh.
Right?
What's the money line? He's got the money line too.
That's the 21 to 45. That's having your heart defined to the throat, gathering together, and the heart center is biting through. So that's how he's made so much money. And right, like a lot of people wish they had that. That's not an easy line to get. And to be a manifesting generator, but he's a 1-3. So people go, why does it always not work out with him in relationships? Like, why does he always have to change people in his administration? 1-3s have to break the bond, right? They get caught up in something, and then it's like, I have to break it. It's not going to work out.
I'm a 1-3 too.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, the more a 1-3 is breaking bonds that don't work for them, the better. The more they stay in things, it can be detrimental if it's not really working out. Or if they don't get the freedom to, right? Like 1-3s, the worst people in their life are people who try to be in their life and tell them what to do and how to do it. And that's like the most disturbing. That's when you got to get out, break the bond.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's the hardest thing for a 1-3 to do. So it's not like he likes doing it. Right?
He doesn't like firing people, but he does.
Correct, right? So, and then, he's markets internal. So like his environment is, he's registering all the things that are happening and keeping track of it all and knowing what it's going to do next and predictability and all that. Like he kind of likes to know where he can keep score, and you wouldn't even know, but also internally he's doing that. He's an observer. His cognition is feeling, right? So it's more about the feeling about it. Like for him, Make America Great is a feeling. It's not a thought. Like you always hear Biden say like, the idea, the thought of it, right? Never the feeling.
Yeah.
You'd think a Scorpio would be that way and a Gemini would not be, and it would be swapped, but based off human design, no. But Trump's also a full moon lunar eclipse. And that full moon lunar eclipse, it sits at 26 right here, right? And that's part of his line 5. So his lunar eclipse energy and the South Node energy right, are really the taming power of the great, like learning to use this overextended energy that's going to be, you know, people are going to project upon him feeling positive, Sag, about a big idea that he wants to take to a big new place. But that line also is sitting on its heart, right? So his lunar eclipse sits in his heart, right? And then the sun, of course, at 12, that's sitting in a space in Gemini that, again, is part of his journey, but it's one of those things that he's got to, like, up here, right here, 12 is the standstill. It doesn't connect all the way. So that's a weird lunar eclipse because it's not connecting. The sun's not connecting all the way to another center. But the lunar eclipse is trying to connect too, so they don't fully connect anywhere. But they're in defined centers. So.
Wow.
Anyway, that's how you can, or if you look at Trump, he's got 2 rights and 2 lefts. So he's half and half. He's going with the flow and then he's thinking about the environment, right? Whereas like Biden is 3 lefts, 1 right. So Biden does not go with the flow. He's always predicting what to do and plotting. He's not in the moment much, right? Or George, he's 3 rights and 1 left. That means he just, whatever. This is happening.
And they're all the right angle ones, huh?
Yeah, and then you got to look at the colors, which are the numbers, right? So, like George, like he's in the mid ranges. It's not like he's got a lot of 6s or anything there, but he's got some of those 3 lines, experiment 5, right? Like you look at Biden, low, 1, 3. He's got a 6 line with his right line. That's where his 6 line comes in really intense, like. But he's got a lot of just always looking inward too much and not outward at all and not going with the flow well. And then Trump's got that and his colors are kind of in the middle too. So they're not really, all 3 of them are not like the best like leaders. Meaning that they're really not the real role models.
Interesting.
That like, they won't be remembered as role models. They'll be remembered as disruptors or, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's my take on it. Somebody else might.
Yeah, I was looking at these comments and I was thinking, because the one that struck my eye was power coming back to the people. And power is coming back to the people and we're at the tipping point. And I've been thinking, you know, is that what happens in the larger picture? And all these people are playing a role in that larger story of power.
So like,
sort of shifting.
So like you can use in the gene keys, right? And we'll finish with this because that's a great question. So if you go to it and like, we want to go like gene key like for Aquarius, gene 4. So we're in the 60th gate with Pluto right now, right? Or this is 18 to Leo. I don't know why. Oh, gene key Aquarius 4 degrees. There we go. I think it's gate 49. Did we move to? No, it's a little bit lower. I could look at it on a, hold on. It'll take 1 second for me. Sorry, King George.
Goodbye, King George. It was fun.
Yeah,
getting to
like
know
it
you
was
more.
fun getting to know you. like if you just go to like charts and then you look at a mandala chart, then you're able to see it quick, right? So if I were to like go no. Oh, here we go. Man, they really quantum mandala, yeah. So let's look at Aquarius, right? So right now, that 60th gate is the place between. I'll annotate to answer these people's question about the people are taking it back. So 60th gate, right, is where Pluto is, right? So when Pluto crosses to this 41st gate, right, this is where we get out of this limitation. So that's what I'm going to show people. Right, so gene key 41. That's it. I knew it was a 40, but okay, so yeah, 2 degrees Aquarius to 7 degrees, and that's where the Revolutionary War really goes the right way for the people. That's where the French start going, oh fuck, well I guess the Americans are just going to do their thing, and England's going to get kind of what they want, and we're kind of shafted, and now the people are starting to be like, we don't know if we want this either, right? But the victim of your dreams is what this gate is about.
The victim of your dreams.
Victim of your dreams. Dreamy, hyperactive. The fantasy, anticipation, and the emanation. Right? So the dark is the fantasy, the genetic wheel of samsara. Right? The prime emanation. Right? So it's teaching in the programming partnership, humility, leadership, arrogance on the opposite side. Right? What's crazy about this one is in the codon ring, it deals with the adrenal glands. It is also part of the channel of daring. This is where everybody dies. Decrease, mountain over lake. So this is where the wars get really crazy. So the idea of the people are going to take it back is the fantasy. The people take it back literally through the channel of daring to take it back. Like Pluto Sagittarius in the Revolutionary War. Okay, I got to go sit in an old British way of doing it in lines against the British with a gun and sit there and pack it myself and shoot and then it get shot and see if I survive.
So you have to take the daring step using the old
Yeah,
structure?
so there is no, the people are just going to get it back. The people have to dare themselves to take it back. And this is where you see in history wars, the daring win, but like it's gnarly, and then the fantasy doesn't become what it is, right? Like America, once they won the war, right? There was no constitution. It was just the Articles of Confederation for many, many, many years, right? Waiting for treaties on the other side to be done. All the people who were loyalists, we stole all their homes, and then until they figured the treaty out, then it was like, don't mess with anybody who used to be a loyalist, right? Oh, well, by the time that they already got that done, all loyalist homes were taken. Like, it is not pretty.
And new treaties are signed. New
at the end of it,
places,
after 41. There is no cordial changeover. Right? In the mountain over lake, right? In that gene key, it's a decrease. That you realize that there is something, the fantasy is the lake made the mountain look great. But the decrease is realizing that it's not just the illusion and the fantasy of how great the mountain is, it's you having to dare to actually climb it. Using I Ching. But that's where, you know, the amino acid is methionine, I think, right? It's an initiator, and the adrenals come up, right? And the adrenals are used in war, right? So, like anybody out here being like, oh yeah, we're just going to go, the people are going to receive what they want.
Well, I think it's that
Like,
saying
it's
the
not.
tipping point is part of it too. It is always leveraging the power, because the other side doesn't just retreat, right?
No.
I mean, you have to work for it. And I guess
No.
human design is showing me too that there's always that opposite working against it. I mean, I don't know anything about it really, but when you showed me those gates that are opposed, it seems like it's like built into the whole structure is the opposing forces always kind of coming to a new.
So to create
balance.
that channel, it's the 30th gate. So if you go to the 30th gate, that's how you get the answer of the other side, which creates the channel, which is the channel of daring, which is going into the end of Aquarius into Pisces, right? That's a programming partner 29, gate 30, rapture,
Wow.
lightness, desire, the celestial fire, right? But it's really interesting because the victim of desires. So it's a victim of desire, and then this whole victim of dreams. So there are victims that come first to get the dream, to get the desire.
Victims that come
Victims that come first. So to get independence, it was the only country that ever did it was America. A bunch of people died, and a lot of people died, and the whole place got destroyed. Right?
And then you.
And that's why,
build it
like,
up
you look
again.
at like people who are still under the monarchies, right? Like they never had the strength to do that. They're still clapping to their king and queen. They still have money with, right? They didn't want to go that hard. So the big question is, are the countries that are still under monarch rule willing to put the young people ahead of them to lose their desires and dreams and become a victim to it? It doesn't just go back to the people. That's the biggest lie people are throwing out there right now. Right? Like, and that Aquarius also with Pluto is the big deception. Like, of course we're giving it to you. Yeah, right. That's the lie that keeps being told to you. Like, we're going to keep democracy okay.
Right, which is why
Right?
throughout it, that's why it's important to keep the Leo element, because you're going to need to know your own heart. You need to stay courageously towards
Right.
what
So
you know.
so the opposite, right, of like where Pluto is now, right, is the 56th gate, which I am, which is intoxication, enrichment, distraction, divine indulgence, right? The victim of distractions, which is totally me. Let's be real, right? Like, okay,
the wanderer,
right,
too.
like overstimulated, right? All right, so like, right, it's this enrichment of being divinely indulged in happiness and love, right? And emotion. That's the opposite place of Pluto right now, which is in the 60th gate of the victim of limitation. So you're either limited in life or you're distracted too. Right? But distractions are based on enriching oneself in the intoxication of the divine indulgence of life. Right? So it's not like, and that's where the programming partner of the 60th comes in, which is justice, realism, and limitation. But that's really boring. There is no divine indulgence on Pluto and Aquarius. It's Leo. That's why Pluto and Leo was such a intense, let's make the world. Let's go make suburbs. Let's go make cars. Let's go do all these things. Let's go make babies. Let's go do all this stuff. In Aquarius, it's the opposite. Let's go make shots. Let's go make AI. Let's go make computers. Let's go. It's not about the people. Pluto is always the deceiver, right? Pluto in Capricorn was, we're going to get everything in order. So much in order that it tried to control you. And has it got it in order? No. It was Pluto's always the deceiver. So all the people that think Pluto in Aquarius just restores it's the guy in the ice cream truck saying, I got some ice cream back here, kid. Right? And that's all the people who are like, the collective, the people are going to get everything they want. The ice cream guy's here.
That's just the first group of people, the victims.
Well, that's what's coming up, right? Is the victim of dreams, the victim of...
You have to believe that. If that's
right?
Pluto Sag, I don't know. But it's like you have to have those beliefs to be able to want to move to something different. You have to be able to recognize, this doesn't feel good. Like Pluto Capricorn didn't break down the controls or the whatever it is. We need to change this. So the people do have to rally in a sense, right? But it's almost like you have to work with the kings, you've got to work with the Leo energy.
Well, so why does it say victim of distractions? Because distractions get you away from indulgence. So why does the gene keys say, and the I Ching and the astrology say, that if you go for your dreams in this fantasy of the collective, you won't get prime emanation?
What's prime emanation?
That's the prime emanation. Like that's
Okay.
the main thing. That's the highest. That's the highest form of. So the fantasies of the world right now and what it's going to be is such an intoxicating place, because the opposite is the intoxication, all that shit. But really, there is no fantasy. It's telling you you're a victim of your dreams. There is no dream, right? So the idea of the dream of America was just blood all over the place, right?
But it turned into something.
Of course. But the whole thing, though, is the whole point of 2 degrees to 7 degrees of Aquarius is there are no dreams.
Okay.
Your dream is the victim that you will, right? Like how a distraction is to indulgence, of divine indulgence, right? So you're going to get more distracted, right?
So we have to be more distracted is the answer? Or what?
Well, no, I would
what
say
do we need to do?
we have to look at the higher point, which is like, well, maybe we need to go like focus on more of that divine indulgence, right? But divine indulgence means your own divine indulgence, not what the collective says is best to do, not what a government says to do, not what the world says to do, not what's normal, right? Because this brings everything into hyperactive and dreamy about something that's not going to turn out that way. Because everybody's dreams of it's going to be okay and it's all going to get figured out isn't what happens, right? Then there's that fantasy, then this anticipation that actually is this weird thing. And the programming partner of it is leadership, humility, right? And it becomes this like everybody's having to be humble because they're witnessing all these dreams, victims of all these dreams not coming together. Like and so the collective doesn't come together except through the victim mentality of, well, the dream will eventually come true one day.
Well, that's the program. That is the program,
Yeah.
isn't it? To always hold it out in front of people to say, this is what you're working towards. This is what we're doing for you. So I guess the answer is don't let other people, dangle something in front of you and say, we're all headed here. It's for your own good.
Right. I mean, it becomes that, because then you see it goes to 19. So when we get to 8 degrees, right, it goes to 19. And that's where the Revolutionary War ends and so forth. And that's where it gets to this future human being. What does that look like?
Is this the
So
future
that
human
is a
being?
long time away.
I thought we weren't even going to get there, though, in human design. Don't they say something
This
weird's
is
happening,
when
or-
2027 kicks in and the cross of the sleeping phoenix comes in. Which there is no more codependence allowed on the planet. No more government to be codependent on. No more mail to be codependent on. No more DoorDash. No more Social Security. No more, none, all that's taken away. Because even in America, none of that operated, right? The money wasn't even sound. The Continental Army money was worthless. They had to start all over. There was nothing to be codependent upon. There wasn't even a form of government except for just a republic and Articles of Confederation. There was no president. So, You know, it's going to come back to the people to be dependent upon yourself. And then there's sacrifice, right? That really the future human being is all these human beings that have to sacrifice the old dependence that we used to have, that old codependence we used to have on a system, and all these things that will never come back in our lifetimes ever again for hundreds of years. It'll take a long time to rebuild the world the way we did, and that's where it goes to the channel of independence. So the secret to the whole Ra thing is like based upon this channel of independence, the 1949, in the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And the approach of this one is approach Earth over the lake. So that's even bigger, right? It just keeps getting bigger. That the lake, you thought, oh, the mountain, oh God, that's the whole Earth. Shit.
Oh, no. Uh-oh.
So anybody that's just like, oh, yeah, no, it's just going to go this way. Because you got to then add that it's Pluto in here. Right? Which is always going to be like, come here, kid. Right? It's always trying to grab you in and make you feel like, I'm going to get this. And then, no, I'm not giving it to you. Right? So...
that Pleasure Island thing.
And then look at the physiology is body hair.
That I saw that.
Right? Which it stands up, it feels, and it's weird because it's a protectant, right? It's a protectant, right? That it's something that you have on yourself, right? So like you don't need bug spray. You have hair on your arms and legs. Oh wait, women don't, but they do.
So we're going to be growing our arms and leg hair.
Well, like, I mean, that's where it kind of gets weird. Like, who's going to make the razors anymore for women? They're going to have to make them themselves.
Okay.
Right?
Got to start learning that.
Right? Like who's going to who's going to dye your hair the way that you want it to be dyed? Like, who's going to have the factory that makes hair dye anymore? Right? When all these systems topple down, like,
right.
And what's kind of scary is part of that dream and those systems, and the victim of dreams is watching as Pluto comes in a revolution of destruction of, well, this blows up, my hair salon blew up, Walmart blew up, that went out of business, the government's out of money, there is no more Social Security, and I relied on this, and I can't do that anymore, and I can't have this, and that's why all the information up to 2027 is the end of information age, where you better store it now because there won't be a way to access it. Right? So people go, I need to have Bitcoin or gold. It's like, I'd hold books. Or ways to play audio that you could pass on for the rest of your life, and use old tapes and things like that. Like, people think about gold, and that's, again, very... the dream of where my crypto's gonna go. That's the biggest lie that's ever been, all of it's a huge lie. Because that's a dependence, right? Like, I have to go get my cold storage wallet to get my crypto.
Yeah.
Because if you think when America in 1781 was sitting there was nothing that you could rely upon. It wasn't like the government was like, all right, thanks for doing the war. We got all these things, right? People were like, can I get paid some more money? Because you guys didn't have money. Well, we got to figure it out first.
Yeah.
Right? People don't realize that. Then two, the only thing that really worked was like people that were slaves being freed, right? That fought, right? Like, okay, you're not a slave anymore, but I don't have a home for you. It wasn't like the government was like, here's some money to anybody. Nobody got money. Nobody got anything. And then there was so many wars in towns and villages and stuff that the roads, the homes, everything, they're in shambles. So it's like, that's why I like the movie The Patriot, because they show it probably the most accurate historical way of like, well, I didn't know where to go after the war, but we all thought we'd come back here and help build your house together. And then we'll build the next one. Right? So the idea, the people are going to get it back. I agree, without the things that you think that you'll have with it. It'll just be the people getting back a world that you have to find yourself within and realize, shit, it's a cold place, Aquarius. It's not warm. It's the coldest because that's Saturn's home. So it's not a warm age. It's not a warm time. It's not friendly with a lot of people. People are going to rethink about Leo. Leo keeps the kingdom together. Aquarius is the rot and the rat nests and the right, like
how fun,
right, and the weird places that are like in the corner of the outside of the kingdom, right, like that are maybe cool for like an afternoon or like a fun Friday night, but we all want to come back to our own kingdoms, and that's where Cancer and Leo, the sun and the moon, live. So we're the farthest from that. A world that's going to be the farthest from that warm place. So that's why I think rulers go mad building up to it, because they know that.
Wow.
Right? Think of the intel right now. Like they just had David Grush on one now, but they just had David Grush on Joe Rogan. And he's like, yeah, disclosure needs to happen. He's the guy who's been doing all the disclosure stuff and the whistleblower. And he's like, but they'll have to keep some things disclosed, like, of course, the weaponry. Because, like, you can go to school for nuclear fission and for nuclear, but not for nuclear weapons. Right? Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, we need to have disclosure about alien and all the technologies, but when it comes to the weaponry that the military has, yeah, they're going to keep that for themselves. It's like, oh. Right? So, to me, it's like we're coming into a world where, like do they know we have overlords that have a plan that was preset? Do they know, it starts to get really in the weeds, and it feels like the world we lived in will never be the same, because Pluto in Aquarius is the farthest from home, the sun. So the idea of the people together is kind of like scattered about in a really weird part of some random continent on Earth without anything there. When we do come together. Yeah, but like the idea of like being like, well, we're there, but you don't have all the things that you wanted to have. There's not a lot of divine indulgence. And that's what Leo brings. Like, and people are going to forget, right? I can't run my Astro Gold. My phone's not working. Right? And I'm like, what's your birthday? Hold on, 88 days before you were born, that's where Mars was. Okay, that's your design. So, like, that's the scary part, is that people are too reliant upon systems.
So get out there and learn how to do it yourselves.
Yeah.
And you know where they could do that? Doing the commercial for your Hypergate school, but I know you just launched that, and obviously this whole show wasn't a commercial for that, but it just made me think that you want to learn how to do all these things. You want to know how to access books and information. And I guess you want to have a community of people, you want to have access to a community who is on the same page and is going to help you build your house when it's all done.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I think it just scares people because the program is been put into our existence and our environment for so long of how this world was that was deteriorating the whole time. That's because it's been the facade that it looks like we're evolving when really it's been falling, right? If you look at money, it's not just inflation now, it's been inflation the whole time that we came out with our idea of money.
Right.
It's never stopped, right? So it's the illusion like, oh yeah, it'll just keep going the way it's been going, or oh, gas, we can bring it back to where it was. What 5 cents a gallon? No, I don't think so. That's never right. Like it's always, everything is getting to maxed out, or the world will just build a bunch of good homes. That was Pluto and Leo. That was Jupiter Pluto conjunct 3 times in Leo, like mass expansion of building kingdoms for people. Pluto and Aquarius, there's no building for people. except for dark beings like Costco who wants to have you work and live there. Right? Like so people I don't think people are ready for that understanding yet. Like, or like I said, read somebody like billionaires are ruining the world. It's like, and you're ingesting and buying this stuff from them. Mm-hmm. So who's to blame? Nobody's to blame on this. It's the way that it really is just.
But it's also, I think we really picture just such a dystopian vision of all of this too. And if you actually think about what happened in the past, right after, let's say, the American Revolution, or even the French Revolution or the Haitian Revolution, a lot of people in leadership especially scatter, or a lot of people who fight are impacted. But a whole lot of people's lives changed slowly and not so dramatically, right? So things become less comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to make do with fewer things or different things, or it's not what you remembered, right? It's not the fantasy you had in mind, and you have to get used to that.
Right.
But it's not that everybody just starts to live like the Hunger Games right away. Or, you're not thrown into an arena at the
Well, I think the Hunger Games goes, like, the main district goes away.
Yeah. But all the districts aren't the same.
Right.
And you can find comfortable places, and of course they make those mockingbirds that are everywhere or whatever, but
which was like, I mean, I watched the prequel. It was actually pretty good. But to go to your point, it's like the meaning that's found, like the founding fathers had to describe to people that these are going to be the most trying times for men's souls, right? All people's souls. So when the war was over, if you were fighting, you still, like Benjamin Franklin, for example, is like, oh, I was in France all the time. I'll come back. We won. And he was having a ball.
And he was almost dead.
And he was almost dead. He was doing surgeries on himself, whatever. But he comes back. He has his printing press. So it's like those things that you know how to do, and you have meaning, and that you don't need the system. You are building the system, or you are your own system. Mm-hmm. And then that's what's scary, is that channel of individuality activates for this next new part of prophecy of the world. Is it activates the 2034, the manifesting generator, the pure man, that I have the throat and the sacral defined. So you survive off knowing how to do it yourself, knowing how to see the vision and make it yourself. There's no outer vision anymore. That goes away, right? There's no more comparing, well, look what they're wearing on Instagram right now. Or what, right? All that goes away. And that's hard, because then that's where the projectors come in to go, oh, I can help guide, but I don't know how to do it. I need some generators that I connect with that know how to do it, right? And then the manifestors start coming back up, and then they start trying to rule people, right? So then that becomes a little Mad Max, right? The manifestors start coming up and being like, no, I'm going to manifest, and you all do this. Right? And so, but then they get overthrown because I didn't ask for permission. So that's where it gets really. I like the Revolutionary War, because afterwards the whole country had to just kind of sit and wait. But I don't think the people that did well sat and waited. They were like, look at the advantage of nothing here right now.
Right.
But a lot of people are relying upon systems and what other people do and what my college said me to do, my job told me to do. And that whole idea of life goes out the window. So, and then if you think about it, the British system, which was in place, parts of it stay, but this American system gets defined. It becomes a defining moment of radical change of what it was being a patriot now. I don't need to have so much class. I can speak English the way I want to speak English. I don't have to be so formal. That's where English changes to America. Right? So there's a lot of informalities that, Aquarius is the most informal sign, right? It always shows up to a red carpet event wearing a crazy outfit. right? Like it doesn't want to shine its best. Like it wants to shine by how different it is, but it's not known for its magnificent, like, royal touch and beauty. So it's more desolate. It's like being out at the playa, you know, Burning Man, you know, like, you know, like, it's a nice tin can you got on your head there.
People with tin cans on their head can pull together and do things too. It's just going to be a really interesting situation, and I can imagine lots of people trying to come in and take control of everybody and herd them to something. And
that's the codependent part.
Yeah.
And especially when they start to follow some person who says this is what the future of a human being is, and defining what that is, when the future of a human being is the independent person that you are. That's all there is no human being future except for you. Like, a human being is a unique expression of one soul in a human body, and then the complexity of all of it is what makes it known as the definition of a species. But we're really not a species because we don't know where we're from.
But are we going to be able to stay human?
I think we're going to realize we're not from the earth, right? Like earth over lake, that approach. And I think that the founding fathers knew that too. So I think that the UFO and the idea of like aliens and all that shit was so many thousands of years ago that they knew that we're not from here. It's not natural. Like nature's not nature. That's not even why the I Ching uses nature. And it's the irony of like a human being trying to define what nature is, because it's not from nature. Nature doesn't define itself. Human beings define nature.
Wow, interesting.
Right.
That's for a whole nother show, I think.
Yeah, that's like when I'm gonna be 40 in a week and a half. So when Leo King talks when he's 40. I'm still 39. So let's
so you're going to be wiser at the end of the month, or when you get there, you'll start talking about these things?
I mean, I think in my classes I talk about them, but I only touch on some of those things because I'm like teaching the meat and potatoes, or like this new Hypergate thing. It's more about not teaching Hypergate all over again. It's like, no, you're going to be the best at whatever your spiritual craft is, using prophecy and using all these different ways of knowing how to do this. I'm going to make sure you know how to do it. Like, and also to carry the wisdom when the information's lost. That you don't need systems, and know how to use the system that's always been used in the secret ways that it's been used, right? Because they kind of do that. You have to send a message that could last forever, and that's not done by traditional idea of making a message. But, then the schools you and I are going to do, like, that's the stuff that's going to be on High Vibe on the subscription, or people could buy them individually. But the history school stuff, for people to start looking, like, how it's so much fun to like look yourself for like clues using astrology, and like knowing, oh, where am I looking? And then, and it always digs up exactly what you were looking for. Isn't that crazy?
Weird. I mean, the weirdest thing about this today was that it was just looking in culture at something right now that people are interested in. Mm-hmm. Turns out to be exactly where we are astrologically, right?
Right.
And who would have thought about it that way? That it was just funny that I'm like, oh, wow, Queen Charlotte's really interesting. And it connects to all these things. So
yeah, it does. Yeah, and and I feel like that's where you can really go. If you, like you always told me, you just don't go in a library and go, let me search for the book that I'm going to look into history. Like, you have to have your target. And so once you have your target, and what's crazy about astrology is it literally is like a page within the book, in which chapter, and you don't need to go more than looking at the next page maybe and back, and it's the lines like, oh wait, it was right here there it is. And then you could even say it before. So you're not even like looking to see, it's more about a verification. Like, oh, that means this will be here. It is. Oh, The discovery aspect of it is like the best part. The history is the only thing that we have. And I think the history is so important to maintain. That's why the Vatican has their library. That's why the world has their libraries everywhere, and they're very sacred. And I think it's funny that people like are bored about libraries, but it's like that's like the only thing that can verify, especially as an astrologer, that happened, or for geologists, or for anybody, right? History is the only thing you can verify.
And you can't rely on AI. I know we love AI, and we're always going into ChatGPT or whatever to look up facts and to get a different perspective, but you cannot rely on it because it never gives you the evidence. It just gives you the story.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just start to switch history that way for if people, and probably astrology too, right? If people don't know how to go up and look at the stars and see where everything is right now, you could print an ephemeris and say anything's happening, and pretty soon people will just start to teach that and learn
the old
incorrectly. Way. It's just like history as well. And I know history is not completely documented and everything is not there, but you can really, that's why I like what we're doing, because you can go to the history that is there and then fill in the blanks about the story that isn't told.
Right.
And it might not be true, right? But it's speaking to us at this moment where we're experiencing similar energy, right? So if we can find the stories of people that lived through the same times, it starts to resonate, and that's where I think there's so much to learn.
Yeah, there's so much to learn there, and it never ends. It's a never ending. The way the future feels, it's never ending. The past is never ending too.
Yeah, that's why I always feel that. Sorry, but this will be my last thing. But thinking about timelines, right, and talking about, are we shifting timelines here or there, or people will say that all the time. What I think is so fascinating is all of a sudden new documents appear, or there are new findings, and you're just thinking, what is it about where we are right now that made that document pop up? It's like the new Book of the Dead scroll that we were talking about before, which I still don't know if they know what was in that, or I haven't read anything else about it.
They haven't released too much of the Egyptian one, but the ones in Greece were really just more confirming. Well, actually, they just took the clock that was used by, what's his name in Greece, that was in the new Indiana Jones? What's his name? It's such a lot. Yeah, well, they took his clock and they figured it out just like this last week.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Or they think they...
It was just like...
Antikythera.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy. It's crazy that he was able to make that clock 2,500 years ago.
But I don't think it's crazy.
Well, like to scientists today, right? Like they're like, what? How is he so accurate?
It just should be mind blowing to us that.
So, yeah, like I think that like the idea of timelines is like technology helps me understand. Like we're all on an iPhone or an Android or a phone, and it's the same thing as the first one. It's just the updates on top, the layers of it on top. So to me, it's like when astrology changes, like we're going down the same tracks as these times in history. It's just a new layer on top, but there's the echoes of that, right? So the couch might look different than the couch then, but the way that people walk and talk and act in their emotions and their feelings about the world have a similarity, but the surroundings look different. But there's a common denominator through the thread of all the layers. Like timelines to me are threads. People kind of look at them more like horizons. I look at them like threads. That's like a thread through patterns and layers that connects all, or tracks that come back to the same place, just in, like it's like Wheel of Fortune. Like I'm back here to this. Okay. I'm in a different zone, and humanity's in a different place and all that.
Yeah, you
But-
just hit bankrupt, but the puzzle's different, or
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
And it's a new host because he just left, right?
Exactly.
And, you know, it's a new girl. Maybe it's not a
Is
girl
Vanna
anymore.
there anymore? Is Vanna
I think
gone
she's,
too?
I don't know yet. I don't really, you know, it's been a long time since I sat and watched that show. I think
Yeah,
last time I
don't watch
watched
it.
that show was probably like 1997. But
Me too.
anyway, well, that was really fun, Anne. And
That was really fun.
I think it helps people realize, like, sometimes maybe the mad people aren't mad.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, I think the expression of madness isn't as mad as the non-expression and the idea of I'm Mr. or Mrs. Little Perfect that never does anything bad. That's mad to me. Like, and doesn't express oneself in their true expression. Like, and unfortunately, that's what we're going to see a lot more of.
That's
So-
not fun.
And that's how you know who's the mad people. Or the people in complete denial. Like, it wasn't like King George III was trying to deny he was mad,
Right.
right? So, you know, it's like, I think what's weird about right now is like there's like a, did you watch the debate that you were in? No. So you mean to tell me, like, you don't understand where the world people are allies, your own voters are concerned, your own constituents in the House and Senate, you're the President of the United States, the military is concerned, everybody's concerned, and you won't even watch the debate that you flubbed in to understand. No, I don't think I did.
Well,
What do you
obviously-
mean you don't think you did?
He thinks he's supposed to say that, being the role model.
Right. No.
Right?
Well, and what's weird is on the street today, TMZ, some guy was in New York and saw George Stephanopoulos just in civilian clothes, like with his headphones on, like walking, and went up to him and kept his cell phone on to show people it's him. It was like, hey man, I just got to ask you, like, about the Biden thing. Like, what do you think? And he's like, oh, Biden can't serve 4 years. There's no way. So that's out today. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. He was the only guy who really sat down with it was a green screen too, which was weird to me. Like, that was not a room, you know, like you could even see, like, they didn't try to hide it either, but it's like, where were they at? So, well, history doesn't have many green screens, so.
No, but they have. There's been fake documents and all that. I mean,
Oh,
yeah, they
yeah.
actually had ultimate green screens because, like, if you think of Stalin, for example, he even
Oh, that's true.
He even hired actors to play him in movies
Yeah.
because he didn't think he looked good enough. So the newsreels or whatever his movies were had an actor portraying him.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
Could be happening
been
right now.
Yeah, and those pictures, the prints we never showed of George.
That's kind of a communist thing, so I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a very
I wouldn't be
totalitarian-ish type of
surprised.
thing. Yeah.
You know, so all right. Much love. Make sure you join us on High Vibe. Make sure you follow the link down below for Anne's channel, which is blowing up.
So we'll
Anne's
see.
blowing up.
I got to start putting
She's
more
blowing
content
up.
out there.
And I'm doing my Hypergate Master Intensive training, which is taking all Hypergate and all of it. And but if you're an astrologer or not, if you're a spiritual person and you want to literally blow people's minds for the rest of your life, this is the course to take. It's registration ends on my birthday, July 23rd, and it starts August 1st. It's 3 a month, 3 actual like Zoom calls where I take people on it, but it's like only for the people in it. It's got a private community on High Vibe on the app, so you can be doing it on the app or whatever. And there's a test after the 10th one, so it's 3 months long.
Are they
And
going to have to? Well, I guess it would be giving it away, but will they have to decode Nostradamus at the end?
I'm not giving away my. That's like my Leo King Elite
I
in 2017, where
I'm
like
sorry, I
my Justin
have to
Bieber.
ask.
Justin Bieber progression, like question, trick question, but also seeing if people could do it in their head. And I made it to where there was no way to use a chart. Like if you can't do progressions in your head, then you're not a good astrologer. So like, and that's why most people failed, but it was so easy.
But
it was weird because I looked back and that question led to him being with Hailey Bieber now, right? And that question led to him now being a father in the years ahead. Like, you know, so like, it's a little like, come on. Or why Jennifer Aniston will always be alone. Right? Like in 2017, right? Like, so.
That was the end of which class was
of
that?
Leo King Elite, like the people who took the class 4 and the elite and took the tests, the hundreds of people who took the tests.
And you had like 2 pass
like
or something?
3 pass. One was Tim Losey, yeah.
Wow. So it'll be a big test. But they'll be on Zoom this time. You didn't have that before, right? So you'll be able to
I used to use
with
Kajabi,
people.
but it just is too off the main High Vibe. Now that I can have private community in High Vibe on the app,
But you'll actually be able to see each other. You'll be in
people can join
live.
in the Zoom, yeah,
Okay.
like, you know. And it will be live streamed in High Vibe for
Okay.
people who have it, not for
Not everybody.
but
Yeah.
people who have it. But then you can join in too.
And it's limited to a certain number or what?
I
Or
mean,
it's
I'm
just-
going to not limit it, but I'm going to, you know, not everybody wants to go on camera. Whenever I actually do it, people don't always want to, right?
Yeah.
And the questions are going to be more on camera and then so other people can see. So like, here's your question. You get to talk to me. What's your issue? And you have to be, if you're going to be good, you have to be willing to go in front of others and be like, this is where I'm having a problem of understanding or whatever. And so people gain more from seeing you do it. Cause you might think you know about it. And then somebody has the courage to say it and be like, well, I kind of only know a little. And then, oh shit, I learned more about, oh fuck. So.
Yeah.
And that's why it's 3 months long. And then there's the community chat in between and all that stuff and posts and all those kind of things. But it's going to be extremely intensive. That's why I made it 3 months long. And every 2 weeks, like, so you have some time to take it in and interact. And so I can be teaching schools every Thursday too, but it's going to be gnarly.
Yeah. Sounds great.
So decoding is just a part of it, but
It's going to have history too.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't remember what else that I saw, but it looks good.
yeah, I'm trying to get people to be like, why can't you just hypergate so fast? Like it's when people are stuck in their programmed ways of doing this work that they're limited. So like to deprogram them is one thing, to actually get them to reprogram and be able to be so fast and there's no question, like, and just to flow at the speed of faster than light and have 80 different things at a moment's notice as backup to confirm whether it's a reading or a prophecy or a prediction or an understanding of where you're at, trying to decode something to help people, whatever it might be. You should be able to be like bing, bang, boom, 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 and to manifest too, because my Hypergate manifestation school's going to be included too with that. And all the codes I used for knowing your Mars and your Saturn and knowing that and applying it to other people in readings. See, I taught it, but do people use it?
Right.
Right? Do people use the Pluto Masterclass like in their work?
That's the only way I learn is
Right.
to apply things. And like I was saying after your last class for the eclipses, I want to go look at some charts now because that's the only way I actually get things. That's the way I figure it out is working through charts myself.
Yeah, or like my Saturn Masterclass, like, yeah, if you got Saturn through Libra and Pisces, you're going to make it and it'll stay a long time. If you don't, it's about learning the client to accept that they're not going to have a long peak moment. Right? Like, and preparing the soul for, you'll have your peak and it will go away. What do you do after? And I proved it in that class so much that people were so mind blown that they can't, it's almost too much, like that's not taught in astrology. Most people are like, what? Every Saturn's treated the same. It's like, no, they're not.
I know.
Right? And it's like, why are all the most famous people who sustain the longest or with jobs or whatever, or their life or their accomplishments are only Pluto Libras through Pisces? Why are the people that they come up, but then they're kind of out quick are Aries through Virgo? And I go into each sign in that school, and it's like, do people use that and understand that to know? That's the other thing about Pluto coming into Aries. Like, oh yeah, we're going to be in a world where things just kind of happen and then they don't anymore.
Pluto or Neptune or Pluto?
Saturn when it comes into
Saturn,
Aries,
okay.
like things just kind of happen and then they go away. It's like we're in a world where it's like it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. Well, my proof will be in the pudding with Saturn and Aries through Virgo for the next 15 years of hop, skipping, and jumping to the next thing. You know, like so. There's a lot of things, yeah. There's gonna be, you know. Or using Antasia in people's charts. People can't do it in their head quick enough, you know?
You know, you mentioned
like
that
I'm just like,
earlier.
how do you not know Antasia at this point? Right? Because it's like it's the seasons and it's the sun's reflection of the same light on the other side. Right? So it's Taurus and Leo, it's Sag and Capricorn, it's Gemini and Cancer. Right? But people are like, wait, what?
I really think we need a field trip. I was just, Natalie and I were just talking about this, that we want to go to Griffith Park Observatory.
Oh, I've been there many times.
I think we need to go do like a field trip of
my
actually
first
seeing
astrology
things
video on
and-
this channel is me there. If people go to
yeah.
Oldest, they'll see
I think you showed me
me
that
at the
once.
Griffith Observatory talking astrology. And it's funny because when I'm talking about it, it's the walk from me from Pluto all the way to the sun because I'm Sun square Pluto, but I don't talk about that in the video.
You're walking on where it's on the
You know how they
ground?
have the
Yeah.
orbits and how far they
I
are in
love that.
relation,
I
right?
love
They
that
actually
part.
scaled it. So when you're at Pluto, you're like in the parking
Yeah.
lot. And then to get to the observatory is where the sun is, right? Like it's the farthest walk ever. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Sun square Pluto in my head. So I'm going to do the walk from Pluto to the sun.
Wow.
Right. So yeah. My first video is there.
That's
Well,
so
not
great.
my first. Soul Garden with Crystal Techie, I was doing other videos, but like my first on this channel and me being like, I'm going to be an astrologer and put it out there on YouTube by myself was at the Griffith Observatory. So, been there many times. I know that place too well.
I
Because
love it
that's where
there.
I faced all my fears.
Really?
Yeah, that was a lot for me to like have my buddy Jacob Dolezal like film me. And there was all these people around and I'm talking astrology and I was beyond broke. Like beyond broke. So I couldn't even afford a haircut. Like, and I'm like, am I really, should I really do this? Like, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of nerves. Like, yeah. And everybody's just like, what is this guy talking about? You know?
Yeah.
So that's my oldest video. And people can do, I love YouTube because you can go oldest. If you go to my oldest, just in their videos, you'll see me at Griffith
All right,
Observatory.
I will go.
And
look
my
at that.
first video on this channel, which is very like humbling to say the least. So
And what year was that?
2011.
Wow.
So, because Soul Garden, I was doing it 2009, 10, but that was through Soul Garden. So
That was on a website, right?
yeah, I was on soulgarden.tv with Chris Witecki, and that was like Astro Mingle, Astro Gossip, and some other stuff. And yeah, but like that was like for the gangsters that know, like, you know, that was like really like a safe space to do it. So YouTube was a little scary because it was like, I'm going to tell the world I'm doing astrology. Like, even though I was a reality star doing it, I felt more comfortable because ABC was backing me. But I mean, it's yourself. You're kind of like,
Yeah.
so, especially I put myself right in the hornet's nest of Griffith Observatory with 1,000 people there. You know what I mean? Like,
And
okay, I'm going to start talking in front of
astronomy.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
astrology.
Exactly. Yeah, that was
like,
the
"What
weird,
is
that was
this guy
the scary
doing?"
part. And then the security guard being like, "You guys can't film down here. You guys have a film permit?"
That's so funny.
So then we ended up leaving, and then we went up. Like, I used to live in LA and Hollywood and all that, so we went up, like, way up on a trail up in Hollywood, and just did it up there, overlooking downtown Hollywood and downtown LA, and finished there, up on the Cahuenga, like, and then going up in Sepulveda and up there, like, it was crazy. Yeah, so a long time ago.
I'm going to go look for the video now.
And it was about the eclipse. The second one was the lunar eclipse in Sag, or Gemini, but it was Sag Sun, yeah. And we actually recorded it and took stills of it all night long. And we're like one of the first YouTube videos that did that. I couldn't afford a camera, so I had my buddy Jacob do it with his camera. I was using my webcam after that. So.
Wow.
All right. See you all in the next one.
Bye.
Adios.
Experience astrology like never before with Astromystic. Forget generic horoscopes. Astromystic combines the wisdom of a seasoned astrologer with advanced AI to bring you real-time, personalized astrology. We have just rolled out the new beta. Astromystic is your daily dose of astrology, or your mystical guide with love, career. You can ask anything. Our special mystic vision can help you see your future, while being the first AI astrology to also integrate the mundane astrology transits. Trained with the work of celebrity astrologer David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King, and with over 12 years of astrology content, a solid 41,600 hours of it to be precise. The Leo King's prophecy astrology, and all his schools and astrology teachings, give you the opportunity to be part of history, as now astrology has never been able to do what it can now. With so many features, and exciting future ones that are rolling out, anyone can use this massive upgrade to astrology to learn, be more conscious, or see into why someone you like doesn't respond to you. What are their turn-ons and turn-offs? How do you prepare for the week, or next month? Is it a good time for love, or work? And we give you the actual mind-blowing details. Let your astrology imagination run wild, or at least let Astromystic help you with our mystic visions. Astromystic ensures you get the freshest, most accurate astrological advice. Share the magic with friends and discover how the stars influence your life together. Astromystic. Put your ego aside and let Astromystic be your guide. Try it